Matt and Greg used to interview movie stars, but now they're doing a podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of
Matt and Greg used to interview movie stars.
That's right. And of course we just heard that in the song and now we're repeating it needlessly.
That is Matt Levitz, and I'm
Also Matt Levitz.
Greg.
We're two halves of a whole.
That's very cool.
No, that's Greg Srzavasti. I'm Matt Levitz. We are Matt and Greg.
Used to interview movie stars. This one is another episode.
It is.
In our canon.
We just keep doing them. You can't make us stop.
We're not going to stop.
We don't get paid. We don't care. Today's episode is The Princess Diaries. We've got some really, really great interviews. There are some fantastic people who are involved in this. Well, let me tell you. We've got Hector Elizondo, Heather Matarazzo, Robert Schwartzman, director Garry Marshall, Mandy Moore, Erik Van Detten, Anne Hathaway, and Julie Andrews.
Wow.
It's a packed episode. Some of those people are together, so it's not actually as long as it sounds like. But there's some really, really good stuff, and in particular, Julie Andrews. Just the fact that I got to sit and talk to her and ask her some questions, I mean, is one of the highlights, I think, of my career. She's just legendary. You know,
gracious.
Who didn't grow up with Mary Poppins and The Sound of Music?
Right.
But also, I mean, Victor Victoria, S.O.B., you know, meeting her was definitely a thrill. We will get to that in a while, unless you're the sort of listener who skips ahead, in which case you'll probably get to it in a couple of seconds. But for the rest of us, we're going to start out now with Hector Elizondo. Hector Elizondo was Garry Marshall's good luck charm. He's kind of like John Ratzenberger in the Pixar movies. You'd be hard-pressed to find a Garry Marshall film that Elizondo doesn't at least cameo in, although it usually was a pretty major role. And Greg, you want to walk us through some of them?
I mean, Pretty Woman. That's the one thing. I mean, there's so many things.
Which was the Garry Marshall film.
Which was the Garry. I mean, I think that's my. And obviously, The Princess Diaries. Those were the big Garry Marshall films that Elizondo did. But you know, Elizondo, born in 1936, he actually started as not as an actor. But what we're gonna mention right now is he mentions in their interview that how he actually his early love for dance before he went in as an actor. But then before that, before Garry Marshall, he started in a 1971 Western called Valdez is Coming, which I believe starred Burt Lancaster. It's Valdez is Coming was in 1971. I'm just thinking, yeah, look, I was right. I was just checking. I was making sure I was right. But yeah, Valdez.
Oh my God! How often does that happen?
I am never right, and I am never right. And then in 1970, a year before Valdez is Coming, he started in a movie called The Landlord. And the reason why this is interesting is it starred Beau Bridges, Lee Grant, and it was directed by Hal Ashby, considered one of cinema's premier filmmakers from the 1970s and 1980s.
Sure.
So that was just his early career before the Garry Marshall years. So could you?
Now, once you get to the Garry Marshall years, their filmographies are pretty much identical.
Exactly. I mean, you know what the thing with Elizondo is there's a bunch of, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of movies that I haven't seen that I do want to see. Currently, right now, as we speak, as we're taping this, he's a regular on the popular Tim Allen show, Last Man Standing. So that's been his bread and butter since.
I've never seen that show.
2011.
So
neither.
I will have to take your word for it.
Neither have I. I'm not a big TV guy. This is a movie podcast. I guess you're not a TV guy as well, Matt. You're more of a movie guy.
I kind of am.
Oh, really? You are? You're a TV guy? I know you're a TV guy and a gaming guy. That's for another podcast.
A little bit of everything.
But over the years, you know, other than his stuff,
Broadway guy.
Man, you're just a guy. He also started
just a guy.
You're just a guy. Elizondo also starred in the Garry Marshall directed film Runaway Bride, which obviously featured the reunion along with Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, the Pretty Woman cast. But other than the films, he's been regulars in a bunch of TV shows like Chicago Hope, the All Too Short, the Gone Too Soon series, Kate Brashear from 2001.
Don't know that one.
Oh yeah, I believe that starred Mary Stuart Masterson, and he was in a bunch of short-lived TV series, Century City. But again, recently it's been Last Man Standing. But if you got to think, a guy born 1936, he's he's right now, he's 80 as we're taping, 82, 83, and he's still working regularly.
And consistently good.
And consistently good and truthful. I think one of the things, his collaboration, why Garry Marshall, you were talking about Hector Elizondo being his good luck charm, he was also, in my opinion, the guy who would come in and not just steal the scene, but would essentially ground the narrative. He was the grounding force in a lot of Garry Marshall's work.
Well, later on in this episode, you're going to hear, when we get to Garry Marshall, we asked him about Hector Elizondo, and what he says is that everyone's a good improviser, but what's great about Hector Elizondo was that he could improvise exposition.
Wow.
So I thought that was a really interesting thing. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
We'll hear that later. But that's a skill set, to not just say funny things, but to be able to move the story forward without the script. That just speaks to how focused he is on where the scene needs to go.
And I'm sure we're going to have some postscripts on Hector Elizondo, but I want to do a little teaser before we get into the interview. Do you want to do a teaser before?
No, please do.
My very quick teaser is just from listening to this interview, and it's a really cool interview because it talks about his love for jazz dancing before he was an actor, but he also talks about it, like you were saying, Matt, his longtime relationship with Garry Marshall. But there is one thing that I really want to see after listening to this interview. There's a movie he did, I think in 2001, called Tortilla Soup.
Right.
Which is an indie film which starred him and the late Elizabeth Pena, that I'm definitely going to track down and want to see, because it seemed like a really personal film from Elizondo. So again, Tortilla Soup is going to be briefly mentioned towards the latter part of this interview.
Yes, it is. So why don't we get right to it? Hector Elizondo.
Here is Hector Elizondo for The Princess Diaries.
So you're wondering why I gathered you here this morning? You're all under arrest, that's why.
Tell us about Lou.
Who?
About your character.
Joe.
Tell us about Joe. All right. Joe loves basic black. Joe likes to be quiet. Joe likes to observe. Joe has a very good time.
Joe gets to dance with Julie Andrews.
And she gets to dance with me. I mean, that's what I used to do before I got into acting, of course. I did, we had a good time rehearsing, a good time dancing. We just had a good time. But it's not hard to have a good time with Ms. Andrews.
In all the times we've interviewed you, I don't recall, and maybe you have, and maybe I just wasn't thinking that.
Yes.
I don't recall you saying that you had been a professional dancer before you were an
It's
actor.
been, I don't say it. It's
not?
been on record for about 30 years. So it's all over the place.
What kind of dancing did you do?
I did jazz dancing with the Ballet Arts Company of Carnegie Hall, back in the late 50s, early 60s.
And the leap from acting to...
It wasn't a leap, it was more of a segue. It was more a grand jeton, so we say. It wasn't exactly, it didn't happen, it segued very slowly. Usually the world of dance and the world of theater back in New York then was, they were closely linked. I did some experimental theater. I started dance by playing as a musician, as the conga player for jazz classes. So it wasn't something that was in my radar screen at all. It was unplanned, like my life has been.
Do you miss it?
No. I love social dancing. I still dance whenever I get a chance, but not necessarily. Not unless it's salsa. I love what's called now. The generic term is salsa dance, but there's no such thing as a salsa dance.
Are you, being a dancer and having your roots in dance, is it exciting to you now that most popular music incorporates both music and dance?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's terrific. I think it's a very exciting time, and I might have kept on dancing for a longer period of time, but then it was I was an anomaly in a world that was not part of my thinking. Well, first of all, it was I never met any dancers other than social dancing, because I played jazz and I played with a Latin jazz band, so I was playing conga and gigging around the city, among my other 400 part-time jobs. Growing up a real life in New York back in the 50s. I was a card-carrying beatnik. So the world of dance was not the world of formal dance was not available to me. I didn't make myself available to it either. So it was only through music that I got involved in dance. And suddenly I met another kind of people, another kind of artist, another kind of interpretive artist. One who had an incredible passion for what they did. And I realized the sacrifice that was necessary for this particular art form. I wasn't ready to sacrifice. I was much too old. I'd started in almost my mid-20s, and it was quite by accident. And just because I had it's a perfect example of why I don't particularly genuflect at great natural talent. I had a natural talent for dancing, but that doesn't mean that you're gonna develop your abilities because you have great natural ability. Usually you take it for granted, and so give me someone who has 10% ability and 90% perspiration as opposed to inspiration, right? And I think you're going to develop a better athlete, dancer, what have you. I had the ability, I took it for granted, I didn't want to do the work. It was just too hard. I didn't want to work 8 hours a day at the bar, stretch. And then I asked the essential question that any good blue-collar working class man would ask at that time: how much money do you make? And when did you have a job last? Oh, I worked last year. What do you mean last year? Well, I worked a year ago. Well, that's not my value system. A year ago, and you're sweating here 8 hours a day. And it didn't take long to realize that the life of a dancer is very, very, very difficult unless you're totally dedicated and you're quite extraordinary. And I didn't have either of those things. I just had some talent, and there were a lot of ladies around, and I was like a fox in the chicken coop. I was the only guy. It was me and maybe Edward Villella were the only two straight guys. You know what I mean? So I heard there was this dancer from Brooklyn somewhere. So it was a world that I didn't last too long in. Although I danced with the company, we gigged around, we did some recitals, and I quit at about the time I was going to do. I was in the second cut of. I've never talked about this. I was in the chorus of West Side Story. We were going to do the first world tour with Jerome Robbins, and I was hoping I'd make the cut. And it's about that time I realized, this ain't for the kid. I have to make another plan. A thoroughly unplanned life. So I segued. By that time, I had already been nibbling on the edges of theater acting.
How do you arrange time in your schedule to be in every Garry Marshall movie? Because I don't know the last time you missed one.
Well, no, I haven't missed one. Sometimes I don't have time. Sometimes I have no time at all, and that's why in 3 or 4 films I've appeared in unbilled cameos, is what we decided. Okay, I'm going to be there. Just don't mention it. I'm just going to be there. Yeah. So that doesn't take much time. That could be a day. I'll always squeeze in a day if I can, but usually I'm working or there's nothing that I want to develop. I remember one particular morning, I had arrived the night before from Italy, where I'd spent 3 months doing a motion picture. And still unpacking, and the phone rings, and it's Garry Marshall in his inimitable fashion asking me to be part of the movie. And he sort of starts something like, "Hello, Hector, I'm here in Long Beach. We're doing a little something. We got a boat in Long Beach. We got a little garbage scow. We got a skiff. You know what a skiff is?" I said, "I know what a skiff is, Gary." "Okay, what languages? I know you do accents, but can you do something?" And so, "What do you want?" He said, Come, go on the boat for a half a day. We'll figure something out. I got to get you on. So what he wanted to do was, continuity is very important. He didn't want to break the streak. So that's an example. All right, so I zip over there. And on the way, I came up with a character who was supposed to be interviewed on television. And so I learned some phrases from Portuguese, which are not very difficult since I speak Spanish and some Italian. So, and I gave him, I created this Portuguese guy. And that's an example of how sometimes I get involved with Garry Marshall movies. Other times he says, "Read this, tell me what you want to do, and figure it out." Usually there's nothing there. The guy lurking behind the post or something. And then we see how I can contribute to the film and help the narrative. That's what we did with a few of them. Flamingo Kid, Pretty Woman, for example. The original character was nothing like that, a very dull person who I begged off from the job. I said, I can't do this. It's just too boring. It doesn't make me laugh. It doesn't make me do anything. So he gave me one of his inimitable directions. He says, just create the guy you want to work for. That's all. And I said, that I can do. So we created that guy. That's how it is working with Garry. That's why I always find time to do it. And it works. We work for each other. I like his sense of humor. I like the way he looks at the world. I like how he treats people. I like the fact that he's a mentor to the young. I respect those things, and he's a good director. He also feeds you very well. That's very important when you're working 15 hours. You better get fed well. You don't know how important that being Italian, anybody from you. If you work for an Italian company or an American company in Europe, you know that one thing you're looking forward to is lunch.
Well, having worked on all of these sets, though, I mean, with him, what does he do to just make it so much fun for everyone?
Well, first of all, he's passionate about what he does, and that's infectious. That's very important for me. He's not cynical. For him, the cup is always half full. I have a tendency to take another darker side of life, so he reminds me that there's another view. I especially like the way he treats people. He's a true egalitarian spirit, and you're innocent until proven guilty. That's what I admire. I think it was Malcolm X who said, you can judge a person's character by how you treat those who can do nothing for them or to them. That's an easy way to judge what people are like. You know, they'll rub up against you. You know, when a shark, before he bites you, he rubs up against you. So there are a lot of sharks in this business. You got to watch what that shark is doing when he doesn't need something from you. How does he treat the waiter? You know what I mean?
He's often described as an actor's director. Do you find that maybe some of that comes from the fact that he acts?
Yes, it certainly is. I mean, for me, some actors can be unnerved by his style. It seems breezy. They don't quite understand his intelligence. He's a very, very smart man. They're a little thrown off by, it's a little Yogi Berra syndrome, you know? You know, is this guy, was he kidding me? But he knows exactly what he's doing, especially when it comes to comedy, especially if he recognizes in a young actor that they have some, help me here, some secret of growth, you know, something to be developed. And if they have desire, if they hang around a lot, if they ask questions, you know, then he'll take you under his wing, and they don't even know how lucky they are.
Did you ever ask him why you? I mean, why does he keep calling you for film after film?
No, I know why. We both know why. It works. You know, he likes the fact that I approach things very realistically. I'm not a ham ever. I don't know how to ham, and that tickles him. And I love comedy. I have a particular view of comedy. There's a comedy I like. I mean, I can play, you know, farce. I can do the other stuff too, but comes from a basis that that he enjoys, and I enjoy working for him because he allows you to. Again, back to the young. He allows the younger actors to fail, and that is the most important thing. You know, you have to success. You know, victory is nice, but usually leads to a party. It doesn't lead to introspection. Failure makes you learn.
Can you talk a little bit about working with Anne and a lot about working with Julie?
Well, that's easy.
Have you ever met her before?
That's easy. No, I felt I had, though. You know, after 5 minutes, I felt, I know this woman. She's, I think it's all been said before. She raises the bar when she comes onto a set, and that's a relief. I usually have to be the only grown-up, you know. There's a lot of young people. And she's self-composed. She doesn't stand on ceremony. She's accessible. She is who she seems to be. She doesn't bring her woes and the pains of her life, perhaps, you know, to the set. She's always, she's a quiet force. She knows what she's doing. She works on the script. She knows, she has a sense of what makes the scene move, so she can help shape the scene with the writing. She changed a lot of that script for herself, and not in a self-serving fashion, but to help the story, to help the narrative. So I respect that a lot. Usually, you know, you're faced with somebody, you say, oh, and how can I talk them out of doing that? It may be good for them, but it's not good for the story, you know? But not with her. She's a real pro.
Bring a certain air to the set, maybe even when the cameras weren't rolling.
Yeah, she raises the bar. Yeah, whenever she goes,
She's actually funny in life anyhow.
very funny.
Yeah.
Sure, that's when you don't take yourself seriously. I think you can be funny. She's very funny. She's a great storyteller, and non-judgmental. Helps out the young people, and she's not in any way pedantic, But the young folks learn from her just by the fact that she's on the set.
What do you mean by raising the bar?
There's standards, standards of comportment, behavior, and professionalism. She comes ready to work. She knows what scene it is, for example. That may sound rudimentary to some, but I've been in situations where the actor comes on the set and they're getting paid a lot of money, and they're very cute with high cheekbones and everything, but they've never done a lick of theater, never had to really work hard and anything. And they say, what scene are we doing? And what I want to do, if it's a guy, I'll pinch them if it's a lady. But say, how much money are you making? And you don't know what scene you're doing? Excuse me. Yes. I'm sorry.
What did you get to bring to Joseph that wasn't in the script?
Certain, a mystery, a drawing. I had him do less. It's all about camera. It's all about the eyes, acting for the camera anyway. If you lie, the camera picks it up. They pick up acting, and I don't like acting. I don't like seeing acting. As a matter of fact, I don't like it. It bores me. But we brought a certain look. I wanted him to be very mysterious, and we also folded in more than a hint, because a lot of scenes were cut out that were more explicit, not explicit in in what MTV fashion, but about a relationship between the Queen and I. We, as you can tell, we're very, very friendly. There was a couple other scenes where we were very friendly.
At least you got to film them.
Oh yeah, that was fun. That was great fun. And we were both tickled about that. I remember during a lunch we were discussing the change in the script, and he said, we're missing a relationship here that could be a hint of a storyline for the adults in the audience. But for anybody, that a romance can take place in a very discreet fashion. Something suggested. That's where the dance came from. Well, how about a dance? They wanted me to play guitar and sing. I said, I've done that before. But let's do dance. And I said, I just danced in a film before, which, by the way, I have 2 films coming out. One in August 3rd, the other August 23rd. Both of them I dance in. And I said, let's pick another kind of dance. Tango, you've seen that enough times. Also, tango, you really have to know how to tango. You just don't decide to tango. You can't do a fake tango; it looks stupid, and I wouldn't misrepresent the tango. I wouldn't misrepresent the Argentinians like that. So let's see what happens. Danzón is a particular sweet, suggestive dance from Cuba via France, by the way, which is a little waltz and a tango, and it's a little bit of a bolero, and so. I chose something. We looked for a danzón music, and we rehearsed to that. We got a choreographer. I showed him the basic steps for danzón, and it's very formal, the danzón. My mother and father used to dance it. You danced at the turn of the century in balls. Everybody had these gowns and Edwardian looking. So that was that's what we decided to do. It was regal enough, suggestive enough, and Genovian enough, So we had a great time rehearsing, and I wish we would have rehearsed more. We didn't need it.
So what are these 2 movies that you get coming up?
Well, it's not often that you get a chance to plug 2 movies that you're proud of. This one, obviously, very proud of it. And by the way, Anne Hathaway is a piece of work. She's a discovery. I know it's been said before that she reminds people of another young woman that I worked with about 10 years ago. And I think what she has is quite unusual. She has an intelligence, a fierce intelligence, and hard worker. In the movie, when she fell in that scene, remember that when she's out in the playground and those metal steps and she really fell? She really fell. That was not a stunt. She slipped. I mean, it was very wet. It had been raining, and we had to be very careful. And I remember saying, Annie, be careful on that step you're coming. Oh, yeah, yada, 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 bing. She falls right on her tailbone, right smack. Now, I don't know, have you ever fallen on your tailbone? You can hurt yourself big time, serious time. You can crack your vertebrae and do anything. Allen Iverson fell on his tail. That's what she did, and she just kept it on, and she incorporated it into the scene. She used it, as they say in acting. She used it, and everybody went like that, and Garry just put his hands up, let her go, and it was great. You had a wonderful, organic, true moment where she really fell. And she had this huge bruise back there, so that shows me something, man. So I was lucky.
You're working with Elizabeth in this next film.
Oh, yes. Elizabeth Pena. That's another terrific performer. We did a film called Tortilla Soup. I'm doing the lead role in that. It's loosely based on Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, the Chinese film, directed by the gentleman who just won the Academy Award. You've forgotten his name. And I think it's better. I think it's the American version. It's an American family, and it received a. It's the first time. I've been doing this almost 40 years. I've never experienced an audience getting up and applauding for a film like that. At the Seattle Film Festival, they stood up and they cheered. So we're somewhat flabbergasted by that. It's a little film. It's a $2 million film, shot in digital, directed by Maria Ripoll, starring yours truly and three lovely ladies play my daughters, Elizabeth Pena, Jacqueline Obrador, Tamara Mello, and also Klaus Kinski's son, Nicholas Kinski, is in it. Cameos by Raquel Welch and Paul Rodriguez. And everybody cries and laughs. Our biggest challenge in that film was not to let it slip into sentimentality, and I think for the most part we succeeded. Go figure, who knows?
Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
No. Take you away. I don't want to have the last question, but I just want to know how you celebrate 4th of July, Independence Day.
Well, I find out where the crowd is going, and then I go the other way. If I were in New York, I'd be on my roof and I watch the fireworks from New Jersey. But I go to a neighborhood gathering, quiet thing. You know, I don't like crowds, even on Independence Day. No, don't go to ballparks and stuff like that too much. That's it.
Guys.
Thank you.
Yay.
Huh. You know, when an interviewee is told that the interview is over and his reaction is an enthusiastic, yay, I'm not so sure that's a compliment. Oh, well. So
I have people say that to me after they're not talking to me anyway. So it's a normal reaction, Matt.
yeah, when people are talking to you and then they get to walk away, they get to leave, and you hear them going, yay! Yeah, it's not a good thing. All right, so he compared Anne Hathaway to a certain actor that he had worked with about 10 years ago. At the time of this interview, it was obvious who he was talking about, but 18 years later, maybe it's not so obvious anymore. Greg, you want to take a stab at this one?
No. I'm not.
He was comparing Anne Hathaway to Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman.
Oh, duh.
Which is a pretty high compliment. And he was right, too, but of course we'll get to her later. Anything more you want to say about Hector Elizondo?
That's it.
All right.
Next up is Heather Matarazzo and Robert Schwartzman. I love Heather Matarazzo because, as you know, I love indie films.
Welcome to the Dollhouse.
Welcome to the Dollhouse. Did you love that film too?
I liked it, yeah.
You liked it? Yeah. So
she was 11 years old in that one.
my goodness, Wiener Dog, Dawn Wiener. She played Dawn Wiener in Welcome to the Dollhouse. We're gonna have a lot more. There's nothing, no Wiener jokes, but a lot of more stuff about Dawn Wiener in the proscript of this interview, which I want to talk about too.
Well, I will look forward to that. If you guys are music fans, you probably already know that Robert Schwartzman is the lead singer of the band Rooney. Since 2003, they've put out 4 albums and 2 EPs, and they've toured with Weezer, The Strokes, Jane's Addiction, Travis, Keane, Audioslave, OK Go, and Queens of the Stone Age. This interview took place 2 years before the release of their debut album. It was 1 year before the band signed a deal with Geffen Interscope Records. At this moment in his life, he's got the band and he's got the songs, and they've been doing shows around LA, but the music thing hasn't quite solidified as a career yet. Now, Schwartzman is a member of the Coppola family. Francis Ford Coppola is his uncle. Sofia Coppola is his cousin. His mom is Talia Shire, who played Adrian in the Rocky movies and Connie Corleone in the Godfather movies. And of course, his brother is Jason Schwartzman, who you might know from every Wes Anderson film ever made. Greg, you want to take us through either of their careers?
Not really, but I'll try. Robert Schwartzman is also a director. Other than Rooney is his bread and butter as a frontman of Rooney, but he also directed a film with his brother, like you were saying. Jason Schwartzman. The film was Dreamland. Also, that was his directorial debut feature-wise. And then also this year, he released the Lucy Hale comedy called The Unicorn. So he's also he's also a filmmaker as well as a musician. So The Unicorn also came out this year. So he's actually, what's interesting is during this interview, we get to see him getting ready to go to college. Also, he mentions about trying to learn as much as he can from Garry Marshall and the cast and crew from The Princess Diaries. I'm assuming that these are the seeds that were planted along with being part of that lineage that led him to eventually want to pursue a career in filmmaking.
A lot of the interviews in this episode are from people who are very, very young at the time and went on to great careers, but we're hearing them kind of at the beginning. It hasn't quite started yet, which is sort of fun. I mean, if you're a fan of Rooney, to hear Robert Schwartzman before he even recorded the first album, where he was at, what is he, 18 years old here, 17, 18?
Right.
So, it's kind of fun to hear what he was like then. What about Matarazzo?
I mean,
what else do you want to say about her?
The thing with Heather Matarazzo is, other than this movie and Hostel 2 and Welcome to the Dollhouse, her career, she's been a character actress pretty much all of her career. There was a time...
Yeah, she's still around.
She's still around, but there was a time from around 2007, 2008 to around 2015 where she wasn't getting a lot of work. I dug up some stuff on her, and she was saying for a big spell, for maybe 7 or 8 years, she had trouble getting work and getting auditions, and she wouldn't get the parts. And she, at one point in her career, in her life, that she actually was suicidal. So that's been pretty tough for her. But as of this taping, she's been signed on to different movies. In 2018, she was in Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot.
I heard of that one.
Yeah, that's the one with Joaquin Phoenix and directed by Gus Van Sant. So she's been in a bunch of indie films. And this goes back to previous conversations you and I have had. During this interview about her confessing that she was actually suicidal at one point, she was saying that a lot of people assume that actors and actresses make a ton of money if they've been in popular films, and money is this perpetuity where they're always going to take gold from the bank and they can live high on the hog for the rest of their careers, which, as you and I know, it's not the case.
Yeah, it's the biggest stars have a lot of money, but the character actors tend not to.
Right, and she was talking about in this interview, it's a little bit of a teaser. She talks about forming her own production company and wanting to tell stories that really appeals to a whole broad section of an audience. That dream of hers, just reading stuff on her, now in her 30s, she still wants to do that, but the realities of the business is it's really tough. And she talked about she was so hard up on money at one time that she actually considered being a Lyft driver, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just extra cash to help you as you go along in your acting path. So
sure. Yeah, I mean, how often do you hear about struggling actors waiting tables? I mean, that's almost it's not almost, it is a cliche.
Yeah.
But it's a cliche for a reason, because it's so common.
One of the things is now that you and I are much older and wiser, hopefully, it's one of these...
Older anyway.
It's one of these things where when these people when actors, filmmakers get second jobs, it's just part of the way the world works now. When I was younger, I thought, oh wow, you should have made all this money from these movie jobs, but why are you getting a job here? Now that thought never occurs to me. It's just good on you for getting that job at Lyft. Good on you for getting a job in a restaurant, because whatever. Trader Joe's, right? The Trader Joe's situation.
Yep.
Yeah. So
the guy from the Cosby Show.
So good on anyone who has a job that's paying money. Thank goodness Matt and Greg used to interview movie stars. Makes us millions and millions of dollars. We don't ever have to worry about a job ever again, Matt.
Oh, good. Well, I'll be looking forward to that.
Matt, you have some stuff to say.
Just one quick thing. From 1999 to 2000, Heather was on the TV show Now and Again, and she talks about that a little bit. And as you'll hear, she's got a pretty good perspective on its cancellation. So that's all I wanted to say in terms of setup. I think we're good to go.
We're good to go. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Wiener Dog and Don Wiener when we get back from the interview. Here
You just like saying the word.
Yes, almost as much as I like saying Matt Levitz. And without further ado, here we go.
Wait, I don't think I like the association.
Here we go with Heather Matarazzo and Robert Schwartzman in The Princess Diaries.
How's it going? Good to see you again.
Good to see you. You guys hang out?
Yeah, we hung out.
Oh my God.
Went some movie last night.
Unfortunately, it was this one again. We've seen it 20 times already.
Can't see it off now. Oh, you
We
guys
just
are,
go, look, it's you again.
you guys are so cute in the movie.
Thank you.
Did you know each other before when this happened?
No. We met at the auditions, the casting, and we hit it off and hung out.
Can I ask you guys if you could just maybe project a little more? Just
Sure.
Because the microphones are not directional.
Oh, okay.
It's got nothing to do with me. I'm not really that bossy.
Okay.
No, that's
only 'cause
me,
there's
but
two
I've
of
been
you,
chastised already.
No, I'll just start with Heather, because the first movie I guess we all saw you in, Welcome to the Dollhouse. And how old were you?
I was 11.
And I remember, maybe that movie, took 2 years to kind of build.
Yeah. It, 2 years to build. Well, we did the summer of 94 and it came out in May of 96. Yeah, so around 2 years. But we also did a lot of reshoots, because Todd's a perfectionist and he likes everything done a certain way. And if it's not done a certain way and he sees it, then we have to go and do it again.
Because I remember seeing you on Letterman after that came out, and you were so cute.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It was like, this girl can't be as pathetic as the girl in the movie. I was pleasantly surprised. She's happy.
We were talking to Hector about this movie and the fact that it's in a way it's kind of like a throwback, and it's so sweet. And he thought that probably adults would be finding excuses to come and see this movie, juxtaposed to the average comedy that, something about Mary and those kinds of comedies that are kind of out there and being very commercially successful.
Mm-hmm.
What is your opinion about that? How do you see that?
You go for that.
Okay. Me personally, I feel as though that's one of the things that drew me to this film is the fact that you don't need toilet humor and you didn't need this crude sex jokes and you didn't need the violence for you to get your point across. And it is just a sweet film that everyone could enjoy and everyone can laugh at. But the message is still there and the message still comes across and it doesn't get lost in the sweetness and in the innocence, and that's partially, why I find it so appealing and that's why I love it so much.
What do you think that is, that so many films that are aimed for teens are all just filled with, like you said, the potty humor, the sex jokes?
Because that's what the media thinks kids are all about. And that's then what kids in turn think that they should be about, when the people that I've talked to aren't like that at all. And I feel as though adults and the studio heads don't give teenagers, young adults, enough credit in the sense of being smart and being able to intellectualize what they're seeing and what they're listening to and being able to absorb it and being able to comprehend what's going on.
How old are you now?
18.
And you would totally go see this movie if you weren't.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I went to go see Shrek a couple of days ago, and I just laughed my butt off. I mean, it was the cutest film. I mean, I love kid films. There aren't enough of them. There are not enough of them. I mean, I like them because I feel so. One of the important things about growing up is that adults lose that sense of innocence. They lose that little 5-year-old giddy child inside of them. And for me, I think it's important to keep it.
Yeah, especially if it's genuinely funny, and this film really is. What about, how old are you?
18.
18. Would you and your pals go see this movie?
Well, yes, I think maybe. Yes, because we'd know that the theater would be packed with tons of girls. So, you could mingle with the girls because they'll be there.
And the press notes said you were nervous meeting Garry Marshall. How did that come to pass?
Well, I was really nervous when I read for him, just because I love his work and, he's got a really strong presence and, I sat in front of him in this little chair with him and all the producers and read for the first time, and I freaked out kind of. But he was really kind to me, and he was really warm and loving. So after that, I was really cool with him.
Did you guys grow up with the shows Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley?
Yeah. I mean, Happy Days reruns I see. I mean, it's not on, but yeah, I'm a huge Happy Days fan. I love the characters on that he created. And am I projecting enough? Okay, cool.
I can hear you. I can hear you real well. Thanks.
Cool.
Yeah. There are two people on this film that bring a lot of presence to them, and have certainly Mandy is popping, and Julie is such a legendary actress. Could you talk a little bit about working with both of those people or being around them?
Yeah.
And maybe that you were surprised, something surprised you about them?
Well, I am a huge Mary Poppins fan, and I grew up on Mary Poppins and A Spoonful of Sugar and Chim Chimney, Shrew. It goes on, but when I was really excited when I found out that she was going to be in it. I was already a part of the project, and then she came on later, and I was just really excited. My mom was actually more excited than I was, because she's a legend. She told me, and you're working with Julie Andrews. But on set, I was really afraid to go near her, and I wanted to stay away. But in the makeup trailer, she introduced herself and was really warm and loving and kind to all the actors. Yeah. So, yeah. I forgot the exact question, but...
And, well, I say both of these people bring somewhat of a profile to them, so I was curious about Julie.
Oh, and Mandy.
Also Mandy, and maybe the juxtapose of the two, even.
Well, Julie, was a singer, and Mandy's a singer. And back in the day, when Julie was in her prime as a singer, as a vocalist... Wow, where am I going with this?
Well,
I have no idea. I was going to connect how, Julie was that, and now Mandy's that. Yeah, Mandy's singing now. That's what I was going to do. Bring the two like that.
I don't think they have anything in common. Let's move on.
Yeah, no, I think they do.
They're both blonde. Okay. Next.
I think Mandy's great. I think she's going to do really well. I think she's already, I think she's already broken into that shell of, fame because she's a huge pop singer.
But she's also very different.
Yeah, that's true.
She's
different from other pop singers like Britney Spears, and
she
I haven't met
has
Britney
talent.
Spears though. But we haven't really. Yeah, okay.
Because she
It's
has
true.
talent.
She's a good actress.
Yeah,
and
she's a great actress.
I think she's going to become more of a serious actor than a singer.
She'll be like Madonna.
She was
I don't
good
know.
in this movie.
She was.
Yeah, she's great.
She was. That's how I thought she was going to be when I first met her. I was like, oh my God, Mandy Moore. When I got cast in this film and then I heard she was going to be in it, I was like telling all my friends, I'm like, I'm going to kick the crap out of her. It's like, God, I just don't like her. Whatever. And I went and I met her and I just was like, hi, it's nice to meet you. And then the first day we worked, I kept on calling her Brittany. And she kept on just coming right back at me, with call me wiener dog and all this stuff. And I was like, I like this girl, because that's what I think is respectable about her, is that she knows how to fight back and she knows how to be independent, but she's the sweetest girl. And me and her just clicked and just became instant and just really close friends. And I love her, and she's just completely opposite from what she does in the movie, and I think she's great, and I think she should have been in it more.
She's cool. Now, let's talk about coolness, because, you guys are still kids, and that whole dynamic never really seems to disappear from high school. Probably 2,000 years from now, people will be having this conversation. But, how did it affect your lives, that whole aspect of where do I fit in? What crowd do I hang out with?
In high school, I just graduated, so I shouldn't talk about it like it's too far away, but
back in the day.
Back in the day when I was a kid, but high school I was a loner, and I wasn't into the people's musical tastes and people's passions. People didn't really have any passions. I went to a small private school, and everyone was worried about their cars and what rims they had on their cars, and putting subwoofers in the back so their rap music will be very loud. And I wasn't into that. I was into, writing music and staying home and recording or playing just being more creative. So, I didn't really let high school get to me too much. I didn't let the whole popularity contest affect me. I kind of tried to stay out of the bubble.
You had your own sense of identity, who you were, so it didn't matter to you how you fit in.
Yeah, and I had, my older brothers who really, we hung out, and I hung out with his friends, their friends, and it was cool. I didn't really, I kind of didn't have to mingle too much.
You've got your own band.
Your experience?
Sorry.
Mine, I just went to school and I did my thing. I mean, I went through my adolescent phase, the awkward phase, when I was more or less in junior high school. And when I was in high school, I was just, you can say what you want about me, but I know the people that love me and I know the people that care about me, and, just say what you want to the hills, because I really don't care. I developed that thick skin that didn't make me cynical, but it just made me more aware of the BS that was going on.
Like in terms of what?
Oh, just in terms of, people coming up to you that you've never talked to and wanting to take you out to lunch or whatever. And, that would have ulterior motives. And then you'd hear them when you were in the bathroom, being oh, she's so nasty. Oh my God. And I was just hey, you think what you want, but, when I'm living in Beverly Hills with my Oscar and my Tony and my Emmy, and you're living in a trailer park with your alcoholic husband, look who's going to have the last laugh.
Yeah, also about high school. Oh, sorry. One more thing about high school. Another thing that I didn't like about high school was that everyone, maybe this is this has probably happened in all the generations, but everyone was so into drugs and smoking pot. And
yeah.
I found that so flaky and not interesting and just boring,
3 kids from my school died within the last 2 years. 1 from a heroin overdose and 2 from drunk driving.
Plus, it's really not that I'm not sad about the kids that died, but it's really boring to be around people that aren't really in the moment.
Yeah, it is. It's because no one has anything to talk about. But to smoke pot, talk about the smallest thing, the light bulb. What? Let's talk about something a little more interesting than that.
And it's so refreshing.
Sorry.
Is it tough to stay away from that? If everyone around you is doing it, is it tough to not do it?
Well, it depends on the person, and it depends on, what type of individual you are and how you were brought up. I mean, if you were brought up to follow the crowd because, your mom was, never popular and she wanted to, shine throughout your teenage years, and I mean, I think it's a lot harder, but if you're brought up in a good environment with a good head on your shoulders, and to know that, hey, I'm going to do my own thing and I'm not going to conform and I'm not going to do this just to be cool.
Yeah.
Then,
I think if I didn't have my older brothers and older sister and my loving mom and cool mom, hip, cool mom.
Your mom is cool.
Yeah, she's awesome. I think I would have probably been in a certain crowd that now, looking at that crowd, I probably would have hated.
But you got into your
So,
music
how much
and
is
you
your
developed
character
your music.
your own experience in high school? Because what you're describing sounds like the character you play.
Yeah.
Did you bring that to the role? Was that on
Yeah,
stage?
I did. That's what I really liked about the role and the project. I liked how he was kind of like a mysterious older brother who never left his room because he was always recording music and writing, and he was a loner. He's just walking around watching things and taking in the scene and working on himself.
How much did the character change from the page to what you brought in?
Well, he was when I first read the script, there was more of him in his room by himself recording music and eating Chinese food, which I thought was awesome, but they took that out. And they added the mechanic side to him. But he was always changing. Garry was always, one day he said, "Oh, okay, you're not a musician anymore. You're just a mechanic." And I was really bummed out about that. And then he brought it back. We split the difference.
On a kind of musical note, you've got your own band. Did Mandy ever give you advice on the music industry or anything like that?
I played her all my music, hoping that she would maybe bring one of her guys down. But I guess it's a totally different area, totally different musical sound. She's pop, and we're it's like pop rock. It's like alternative. It's very Blur, very Beatles, kind of Radioheady. It's kind of got an 80s feel to it as well. It's very catchy.
Do you guys play around?
Yeah, all over LA. We play all the time.
And the name of your band is?
Rooney, Rooney. Rooney.
It's really
Not a good name, but we're stuck with it now.
I
So
just wanted to follow it up. You were in Macy's video.
Yeah.
How did that come about? And tell us a little bit about working with Macy Gray.
I'm friends with Mark Romanek, and we hung out one time, and he called me and said he was in this video and that I'd be really good to be in it, and that's how I was attached to that. I wasn't friends with Macy or anything.
Did it reaffirm for you that this was the direction you wanted to go in? Was there something about the shoot that you said, "Oh, I should be starring in this video"?
Not really. I mean, it was after the Virgin Suicides, and I was kind of thrown into the Virgin Suicides. Not thrown into it, but Sophia had this character that she thought I'd be perfect for, and I didn't really have any experience. So I wasn't, I didn't want to be the star of the Mark Romanek video. I was just doing that because Mark is a friend, and I thought it'd be just be fun to watch him work and to be on a really cool set it looked really cool too. So it was, I'm really trying to learn a lot right now about film and directing and production and how everything works together. So yeah, I mean, it was more of a learning experience.
If we can go back to the drug thing, it's refreshing to hear your attitudes about this.
Yeah.
Because so many musicians and songwriters, they use it as a crutch. It's
Right.
You can't get to that creative place without it.
Yeah.
Do you think is that just an excuse?
Well, I know Paul McCartney never smoked pot. Actually, he did. The first time he smoked pot, he thought he had the answer. He solved the puzzle of the key to the world or something like that, and he wrote down something that actually said later, there are 7 levels. So, but
How did he get stuck in Japan?
what? No. He smoked pot later, but when he was younger, he wasn't. Yeah, the Beatles.
Until I met Dylan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, until he met Dylan. He got them high for the first time. I don't think that's cool, but.
But I mean, about you and about being in an LA band where that's unheard of to not be on drugs.
Well, yeah, my band is all drug free, and we got a guy in the band, and he would smoke pot, but we got him to stop smoking pot because he's in the band now. And, I don't find it difficult to hide from the drug scene. I'm strong and I don't do that, and people respect that if you don't smoke pot. They don't make you do it, and you can't not play a show if you smoke pot or something like that. They don't say you can't play the whiskey because you don't smoke pot.
Right, but you do see that it is everywhere. Right?
It is everywhere, and there is a huge scene that doesn't do anything.
Yeah, man, where are you hanging out?
Yeah, man, dude. Come to the arcade, dude. No one smokes pot there. No, there's a huge scene of people that don't smoke pot and people, but I think people only see the ones who do smoke pot because they're the bad kids.
Heather, is Now and Again over?
That it is.
I think the problem is that people thought it was Once and Again, and they couldn't remember which show to tape.
Oh no, that wasn't it at all. Enough people were watching it.
Okay.
Enough people. We were in the early 20s in regards to ratings, and we had the number 1 spot in 18 to 49 viewers, and we got that each week. And to get that on a Friday night at 9:00, is a very, very big deal. And CBS hadn't had that in the longest time until our show came along.
What'd they do?
They didn't give it a chance, and that's fine with me in the sense that everything happens for a reason.
No, you sound bitter. I think we should...
Oh, no. No. I mean, I as I've said before, everything happens for a reason. And if Now and Again wasn't canceled, I wouldn't have been able to do Princess Diaries, and I wouldn't have been able to meet all the people that I met, and then I wouldn't have been able to do Sorority Boys, the film that I got after, because I worked with Disney in the first place, So, I mean, all these little things contribute. And so, I mean, I'm not bitter. I'm saddened because it was a great show, and I feel as though we don't have a lot of good shows on TV, and when one comes along, they really don't give it that chance. I think NBC is a station that if you have a good show and you have a good following, NBC will give you a chance to kind of play out, But people make their own decisions for their own reasons, and whatever they are, that's okay with me.
So you like watching Letterman make fun of Les Moonves?
I'll take the Fifth Amendment on that one.
Now, where did you go to school?
I went to a public high school in Long Island, and it was just whatever. I went there when I had to, and otherwise I was working.
But the kids knew you were an actress. And stuff.
Yeah, they knew. When Dollhouse came out, that was a little rough. I was called Wiener Dog throughout high school.
Yeah, because they thought you. Did they? I mean, in the one sense, it's cool to be in a movie, but you really were vulnerable. The part that you played made yourself very vulnerable.
Yeah, it made me vulnerable, but on the flip side of that, then me as an individual, and it made me a lot stronger. And it made me more aware and assertive and independent. And I did that the summer before I went into 7th grade. Oh my God. So that was kind of my, it was cathartic for me, because I was like, if anyone can get through this, and if this character can survive, I can survive anything, and so it was fine. It was fine. I didn't really have that many problems.
That's cool, because I think you have a good sense of who you are. You must have good parents.
Oh, I have the most amazing parents. Like, my mom's my best friend in the whole entire world, and she's just the nicest woman, and the only advice that she's ever really given me is just to be yourself. As long as you're that, everything will be fine. So that's why I've never really had that problem of conflict and just wanting to conform and to be someone I'm not.
Awesome.
Do you consider yourself a musician who likes to act, or an actor who likes to perform music?
I consider myself an artist who likes to create, and I love to do both. I love to create, and I love to do many different things. I love to paint, and my painter likes to act. No, I feel I'm an artist who loves to create, and I think my family we're very artistic and very creative, and we support each other, and we're very hardworking, and that's how I model. That's who I am.
Are any of your brothers doing music? Or are you the only one who does that?
Yeah, my Jason plays in a band. He plays drums in a band called Phantom Planet, who's actually they have a record coming out in February, and they're really good. But and I think that sort of drew me to music as well. Just being around his band all the time, and going to their shows. I wanted to be them on stage.
Did you have any of the kids or cast members from this movie come out to see you guys play?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When we had a show at the Whiskey in between, right in the middle of the shooting, and everyone came. Heather, Annie, not Garry didn't make it. Garry didn't make it to the show, but his son did, and Deborah Chase, and so many people from the movie. And they loved it. It was great. And we talked about it afterwards on the set, and I gave CDs out to people. And
does your band have a deal?
Kind of with an indie label, but we're looking for a bigger deal right now. We're gonna start shopping our music around. We haven't really done that yet.
And who's producing your record?
Well, we got a producer, a friend of ours, who have you guys heard of Pro Tools? It's like a recording. I see all the good mics and stuff around.
Yeah, we use
yeah. Oh, cool. Well, he's this Pro Tools wizard, and we got him to produce our music. He's just a friend of ours, and that we're gonna use that to shop around. It's almost like a demo thing. What?
He's not a musician.
No, he is. He's a musician.
It's not Ken Andrews, is it?
No, not Ken Andrews. But Ken Andrews is awesome, and so is Matt Mahaffey, if you know. Self. Everyone should get this record. Self. A band called Self. All right.
Are you musical?
Somewhat, I guess. I like to sing, and I play guitar, and I play piano, and play clarinet, and whatever. I'm looking, gonna start producing, starting my own production company, and trying to get that going, and just reading a lot, and gonna start trying to option some books and go down that road.
Do you have a specific target in mind? In other words, producing and making films for either women or young people, or
For everyone. This is my goal, and this is what I plan to do within the next, until the day I die. But I want to make films regardless of what audience, that just make people feel and make them think and make them reflect. I kind of feel that we've lost that, so I just want to do that. I kind of want to just bring that innocence and that love back to cinema in general. So I don't have a specific audience, it's just kind of everyone.
Yeah, and for me,
Thank you.
I'm off to college in the fall. I'm going to school, and I will graduate, but if a good project comes along, I'm going to take a semester off. But I'm off to New York City to the new school, Eugene Lang College, it's called. And I'm gonna, study my butt off and become a well-rounded human being.
what about the band?
The band will stay together. I think we're gonna shop the music around, and if we get a deal, I'm gonna come back in January to play music. But I also have time off during the year to come back and play shows. So.
What do you want to study?
Philosophy, creative writing, and music and business as well. But yeah, so mainly creative writing. Eugene Lang, that's her specialty, writing. So cool.
Thank you,
They're
guys.
so awesome.
Okay, so we're back from the Heather Matarazzo, Robert Schwartzman interview. I had the teaser with the Wiener teaser, the Don
yes.
Wiener teaser. One of the
Please
things.
stop teasing the wiener.
Okay, all right, big boy. This is a family show. But regarding,
Don't call me big boy.
okay. All right. Okay, that was funny. Okay, so regarding Don Wiener is a character that Heather Matarazzo played in Welcome to the Dollhouse.
Yes.
One of the things she said was regarding her career. She expressed a bit of, I don't know, maybe frustration, melancholy, because in 2016, Todd Solondz, the director of Welcome to the Dollhouse, he actually had the character of Don Wiener in one of the vignettes from that movie. Don Wiener was actually played not by Heather Matarazzo, but by Greta Gerwig.
Huh.
Okay, and here's the thing. Also,
So it's a job that she should have gotten.
and here's the thing. She actually went up to Todd Solondz and she talked to him. How come you didn't cast me as Don in Wiener Dog? And his answer was, well, you rejected my role, the role of Don Wiener in Palindromes. The character of Don Wiener was actually in the Todd Solondz film Palindromes, which I believe was released in 2004. And at that point in her career, she rejected that role. And he said, the fact that you rejected that years later freed me up to cast another actor for the role, this person being Greta Gerwig for Wiener Dog. So anyways, the thing is, hopefully one day we'll see Heather Matarazzo as Don Wiener in a future Todd Solondz film. I'm hoping, because Todd likes to actually put that character in his movies, and hopefully their connection comes back again.
Well, we'll see.
Yep.
Okay, so I've got a couple of postscripts.
Yep.
Heather said that she had a production company and she was looking at things to option, but as far as I can tell, poking around the internet, nothing much seems to have come from that. She is credited as a producer on a 2011 film called Mangus, but she's literally one of 22 producers on this film, so who knows what she actually did with that. And then she produced a 2016 short called Are You Afraid of the 90s, which she also starred in, and it was a Kickstarter project. 137 backers pledged $5,518 and made it a reality. So, as always, hooray for social media.
Very cool.
Robert Schwartzman said that he was heading off to the Eugene Lang College in New York City. According to his Wikipedia page, he did do that. He started later that same year, 2001, leaving his band Rooney behind in Los Angeles. But he wrote a ton of songs in his dorm room, and he would fly home every month to do gigs with the band and to try out the new songs. And in fact, most of the songs on Rooney's first album were written in Schwartzman's dorm room in New York. But then the next year, 2002, the band got signed, so he dropped out of school, and the rest is history. The band is obviously doing very well, and in the last couple of years, he's even directed a couple of movies. You mentioned earlier, Greg, Dreamland and The Unicorn.
The Unicorn, which features music from Rooney. So,
well, I wonder how they got that job.
Okay.
Nepotism is alive and well. You cast yourself.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so now we're moving on to actually one of my favorite people that I've gotten to interview. And, Garry Marshall is much loved in the industry. Every time we did a junket for a Garry Marshall movie, we would just hear people talking over and over again about just how nice he was and how great and gracious and great director. I mean, he's no longer with us, sadly.
Yeah.
But he was just so respected and liked in the industry. And we're hearing that a lot in today's episode, but it wasn't just this movie. It was just across the board.
You asked a great question during the interview with Garry Marshall.
I did?
You did a great... You asked a great... And it's a little bit of a spoiler for the interview, but the fact that Garry Marshall admitted that he's not much of a tech head when it comes to even just operating his VCR, and that happened towards the beginning of the interview, I'm thinking... Is someone going to follow up on this remark? And you plainly did.
Me.
It was you, and he gave you a great answer, and that answer should be applied to anyone who believes that if you ever want to start a path in directing, making your own film, being a filmmaker, that you don't really have to have an A+ knowledge of every single little nook and cranny of the process.
You're the one with the job to make sure that the story gets served, and as long as you can do that, you can be a great director. You can hire everyone else to do the technical stuff. You don't need to know the differences between the lenses or whatever else. You've got a DP for that.
Yeah.
So, Greg, if you don't mind, I would like to take the bio on this one.
Yes. Yes, I mind.
Oh. Well, I'll just go sit in a corner.
Well, how about you just read it, because you're smarter than me.
All right, good. I'm not going to argue with that. I always enjoyed interviewing Garry Marshall. He was just so darn likable and friendly and forthcoming and warm. And he really knew his stuff, so he was interesting to talk to. I loved his book, Wake Me When It's Funny, when it came out in the mid-1990s, and I highly recommend it as a fun Hollywood insider memoir with some really great stories. Marshall started his career as a joke writer for Joey Bishop and Phil Foster, and then he became a writer for The Tonight Show with Jack Parr. From there, he went on to write for The Dick Van Dyke Show, The Joey Bishop Show, The Danny Thomas Show, and The Lucy Show. And then, instead of continuing to write for other people's shows, he began to create them himself. If you grew up in the 1960s or the 1970s, Greg, you and I both are from the 1970s, you definitely knew his name from the opening credits of every one of his shows, which were The Odd Couple, Happy Days, of course, classic, Laverne and Shirley, which was a spinoff of Happy Days, and Mork and Mindy, which most people probably don't remember was also a spinoff of Happy Days. Mork was originally introduced in a Happy Days episode.
Right.
So, yes, Garry Marshall is the man who discovered Robin Williams. Then he moved into film directing. He wrote and directed The Flamingo Kid with Matt Dillon and Nothing in Common with Tom Hanks and Jackie Gleason.
Wow.
And then he directed Overboard, Beaches, and by far his biggest blockbuster, Pretty Woman. He also worked as an actor. He was in the funniest scene in Albert Brooks's Lost in America, playing the casino manager that Brooks tries to convince to give him his money back. He was in A League of Their Own, which was directed by his sister, Penny Marshall. He was the team owner. On the 1990s TV series Murphy Brown, he played Stan Lansing, the network president. I actually worked with him, sort of, on Disney's Chicken Little. I edited the electronic press kit, so I was never actually in the same room with him. He was just on my monitor for several months when I helped create many different featurettes that he was in, but he played the father, Buck Cluck. So those are his credits. I do also want to give special mention here to a theater that Garry Marshall founded in Burbank, California, blocks away from Disney and Warner Brothers Studios. The Falcon Theater opened its doors in 1997, and for 20 years, Marshall was heavily involved. He brought in a lot of his industry friends to put on shows there. His own play, Wrong Turn at Lungfish, had an extended run there, of course starring Hector Elizondo. Every time they put on a production, Garry would be its head cheerleader. And I've been there several times, and it's this intimate 130-seat theater that does these world-class productions. There isn't a bad seat in the house. It's like one of LA's best kept secrets. When Garry sadly passed away in 2016 from complications from pneumonia at the age of 81, the Falcon Theater renamed themselves the Garry Marshall Theater, and they still continue to honor his legacy. They're still putting on great original shows, but now they also honor Garry's life's work. They screen his movies, and they do Q&As with cast members. It's this really special little place, and I have no connection to them. This isn't a paid endorsement or anything. I'm just a fan. But honestly, if you live in the LA area or if you plan to travel here, check them out, the Garry Marshall Theater. They're pretty cool.
Wow, that is really cool.
So I don't have anything more. Greg, anything you need to set this interview up with?
You know what? The thing is, I actually have, there's this phrase he says that I don't even know how to, when he says chuff for chuffer, I don't know what that means.
I don't remember that.
During the interview, he says chuff for chuffer. He says that several times. Huh. He's talking about punching up the funny lines, and I had no idea. I never saw Keeping Up with the Steins, which was directed by his son, Scott Marshall. I had no idea that Garry's son, Scott Marshall, did a lot of work with him and his sister, the late Penny Marshall. So that's something that you're going to probably take a gander to with this interview. Anything else, Matt?
No, I'm good.
I'm less than good, but who cares? We're going to get to Garry Marshall right now.
Awesome.
And without further ado, here we go.
Garry Marshall.
Look, everyone, Garry's here.
Hi. Hi. A lot of girls. That's what I like. A lot of girls. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
This is all radio?
Yes.
Print? Okay. I lost my voice being charming to the TV people yesterday. You know, be cute and animated. So
You were charming.
Lost my voice. So I'm going to talk nice and soft for you.
Speaking of charming, this movie is certainly that. And
Hi, we met.
Yes.
Good.
And Hector was in here talking and had raised a very good point, which was the fact that so many movies are not charming. They're even if they're geared towards the kids, they're about sex jokes. Or, if they're not, they're just about big explosions. You do charming, and you do it very well. What is it about bringing that sensibility, keeping that innocent world that attracts you to keep making these?
I like charming. I like romantic, and I feel that there's not a lot of pictures out there for women, and so I've done Beaches, and The Pretty Woman had a certain appeal to women, and I find there's a lot of pictures that fathers and sons can go to. Blow It Up, it's good, but not so many fathers and daughters can go to it. I have 2 daughters, I have 2 sisters, so I thought there might be use of a story. That one of the things that appealed to me about the script was a story about a teenage girl and about self-esteem, which is most of my pictures about. And to make it charming is, I'm a big fan of Merchant and Ivory. And they do charming, but sometimes Jane Austen could put you to sleep a little bit. But the flowers are always good, and the trees are beautiful, and they do these beautiful elegant, and everybody has their bodice pulled up and everything. So I like to do that with humor, and but this is a G picture, a certain amount of humor that is not, particularly gross, although I can do gross with the best of them. But I think that ladies like a little bit of charming in a film. That's why women hate the Three Stooges. I figured it out why the women hate the Three Stooges. Traditionally, Three Stooges are great, but women hate them. And finally a woman told me in some place in Cincinnati, she says, the Three Stooges act like men when they're drunk. And the husbands and boyfriends, they get drunk. That's the way they act. We hate that part. So they like Laurel and Hardy, but the Three Stooges, I don't like. So anyway.
They like to watch people hurt each other. And that's what
they do. They hit each other on. There's hitting. Abuse is the Three Stooges deal in abuse. Not a good subject. And growing up, my wife, a nurse, will tell you a lot about that. So anyway, charming, Lowell Gans once said, charming is their family business. Because Penny and I both do a lot of stuff but we think it's funny too. But since I'm in love with kissing to me is the best thing. And so every picture I try to celebrate a way of doing a kiss. And this one we got the garden to work finally, and it's amazing what you can do in movies today. It didn't work like I wanted to, because when the foot kicked the foot's going to go up. Everybody knows that, but what you don't know is I'm going to hit something. But it didn't work because the light, it decided the screen was not working. And now I said, ooh, I wish I had a fountain there. And the man said, we'll make one. We'll put it there. So there's a fountain there now. The foot goes up. There's a fountain here that was really there. There's a fountain here. It was not there. It's up. It's squirting like a crazy person.
They put it in?
Yeah, they can graph it, digitally do anything now. They talk to you about that.
They can add charming?
They can't add charming, but they had the fountain. I knew the fountain was more charming. That's what I added it for.
So what are some...
I guess it's probably never been a 13-year-old girl, you know. How was it you were able to get it? I mean, what was that as a challenge to get into the head of this kind of a character and present this in a way that would relate to 13-year-old girls?
Well, I don't know if girls and boys are totally different in every aspect. Everybody's lonely, everybody's scared, everybody really wants friends, everybody wants to fit in. There doesn't seem to be much of a difference. And out there in the world, in high school now, the bullies are girls as well as boys they're picking on. I mean, everybody's saying it's terrible. You can't change that. I mean, in some cave one day, one kid grabbed the other kid and said, you look like a dinosaur. You got a dinosaur neck. Dinosaur neck, they all yelled in the cave. It started there. You can't fix that. That's people. But the fact that you want to deal with it, we would try to deal with it with an ice cream cone or something, and to make sure that you didn't base your life on what other people thought. I think is boys and girls. Self-esteem is a running theme in a lot of my work, and I think this, you know, you can look at anything the way you want. We were trying to say it doesn't matter how your hair is, or your lipstick is. You have to make choices in your life. You have to choose to do things. You got to follow a certain dream, a path. And it doesn't matter what other people think or how you look. It's not based on plastic surgery. It's based on an inner decision. And I mean, we don't do it heavy, but that's the theme, and I think that's for boys and girls. How the girls talk, I steal from the girls. I say very often, what would you say here? What is my kid says awesome. Your kid's 30, Garry. Oh, all right. They tell you something else, they say. That kid was very good, Heather Matarazzo. She had a lot of good language things she helped add. And Gina Wenkos wrote it, but some of the words are done by the actual... we had 9 kids under 18 in this film. They were all in school all the time. It was hard to shoot. Me and Julie sitting on the set. You think anybody will come and do a scene? They're all in school.
She should have taken a class.
Julie should. She gave me classes in how royalty works and all that. She's a dame, you know. She got knighted.
Did you? Was Julie your first choice?
She was the studio's choice. Peter Schneider had a studio films. Said I was Whitney Houston owned the script and the story, and Disney called me and said, basically, we have a sweet story here, but if you do it, you'll make it a little crazy, you'll make it edgy, you'll make it charming. So come, and I read it, and they talked about Julie, and then I met with her.
Had you met her previously?
No, I know nobody. My sister Penny knows everybody. So I call Penny, Julie's wonderful, you'll love her. I watched her. As My Fair Lady, I must have seen 11 times. Because that's where I first got interested in how to charm an audience with using music and costumes, and just see that you could take a little girl, a little boy, and everybody is just fascinated. My Fair Lady was one of the first things I saw do that.
You didn't know Blake?
I stole from Blake. I mean, I watched his work, Pink Panther. The reactions of Pink Panther taught me all about reaction shots. And first time I met Julie, I said, the truth is, I don't really care about meeting you. I'd like to meet Blake. He's funny. He does all that stuff. And she said that, I did. We went out together. We had a couple of evenings, Blake, and we all went out. But Julie, because she hangs out with Blake, has perfect comedy timing. So she knows where the joke is, and she knows how to tell a story.
You mentioned My Fair Lady. How much did you use that in putting this film together? Because there's a similar story.
Well, we had to discuss that. All right, so you're playing Henry Higgins, and the kid's you. So this is the way it is. And we didn't copy it, but that same feel and how she felt. Julie, felt that dance and grace was important. So the dance scene was not in the original script. The dance scene we picked up one night. Hector and I were at the Hollywood Bowl, and we heard this bolero tango dance thing done by a guitarist. And I said, "That's what you're going to do." He said, "I did guitar in 2 of your pictures already." I said, "No, you'll do the dance part." And so we put it in. But, things evolve. Everything is not written exactly.
What were some of the things that came in the moment? I know from what I've read in the press kit, all the actors were very grateful that you let them bring a lot of ideas.
Well, I like improv, but improv done badly, you go right to sleep. So I always do it as written, and then I say, all right, let's play with it. Let's mess around, see what we can find. And then, sometimes they try something and all of it doesn't work. See, I remember on Pretty Woman, there's a guy named Larry Miller played the clerk. We were dying. It was not a scene. So I brought him in. I said, "Larry, we're going to have to do one of your improv kind of things. So you and Richard get." And it was very funny. He, made you sucking up. I don't know if you remember the scene. So in this scene, Julia Roberts called me and said, "Why am I sitting up here on the counter?" I said, "Well, because they may not improv perfectly. So we're going to cut to you and get rid of all the stuff that doesn't work. That's how it works." So that's what we did, and I continue to do that. The dance was long. We cut to Julie. The actual beautiful dance was also too long. So my daughter, who plays the secretary, I realized after I shot it, so I got her. I said, "Go with the second unit and walk in and walk out. I'll have a bridge to tighten that up." So I like them to try things because I am always their net. So they can try anything I want, and I won't leave anything in that embarrasses them. And after a while, I go and tell them the next day, "This and this worked, the other don't work, but don't worry, I'll cut it out." And they learn to trust you that way.
So who was the best improver on this set?
Well, I would say Hector is always good because he's the only one who can improv exposition, which is needed sometimes. Comedy's easy, it's exposition that's hard. But I thought that Heather Mazza, part of improv is taking the line late. And Heather Matarazzo was just terrific in that I didn't have to talk to her all the time. I remember did Overboard with Goldie Hawn, and we were driving in a truck. She's in the back of a truck, and it's not interesting. And I yelled to Goldie, "Swallow a fly! We're in the woods, a fly you choked on." Or a bullhorn. And she didn't stop and call her agent, ask for a motor. She just did it. She was great. So you could do that. Heather could do it. I said, something. You've got to come from too far away. Yell, "Wait for me, wait for you." There's a kid turns around, you say, "I don't know you, leave me alone," and go. And no rehearsal, just did it. It's the first take, it's the only take, it's there. So she was great. And Annie is very, very smart. Goes to Vasa. But she's a good, I'm trying to keep her in college. She'll act, but she's very, very bright. And she can, once she gets the essence of it, then can improv it beautifully with the right language and everything of the girl. You asked, she understood the girl very well, the language of the girl.
We heard that her slip on the bench was not planned.
No, she's also clumsy. You can be very bright and clumsy. I am. And she did fall, but, it was slippery. It was raining and a messy day, but we keep shooting. And again, I cut away to Hector to take out the part where she, and then quickly came up. But she stayed in the scene. I got to give her that. She stayed in the scene.
I'm sorry, 10 years ago, when you did Pretty Woman, you hired a relative unknown, Julia Roberts, and you saw something in her, obviously. What was it in Annie that you saw that you knew she would be?
Well, everybody says everybody who smiles good is Julia Roberts. Well, a lot of people could smile, but certainly Annie has a smile. But she has in film you have to be good in here. This is how close we come. In theater and in TV, we don't come this close. So you have to have something going on in your eyes and a smile. And partly it's good if we can fix your hair well. But she had an intelligence and a great, for a young kid, she was 17 when the picture started, a great dedication, and you wonder, if they named the kid Anne Hathaway, she's not going to become a dentist, I guess. It's not the indication. So she really loved acting, and she hadn't done a lot. I think she did a piece in one other movie. This was like her first movie. But I liked the way she could go from crazy, ditzy, dorky to dignity. That's what was the key to the audition. I made each person, I got a cape, and I put around and I put a thing on their head and said, all right, now the other part. You were funny, now you got to be strong. And nobody could do it very well. Annie did it brilliantly. Somebody asked me why I had a cape in my car. But we have the Falcon Theaters. We auditioned at the Falcon Theater. It's my theater, and we have all the costumes. So I could do it. But she won me over when she did the speech at the end.
Garry, you have been responsible for some of my most favorite movies, and I do a column on DVDs, so I'm going to ask you a DVD question. The DVDs that you have worked on of your films, which was the one that you think is the better? Is it Pretty Woman? Is it Runaway Bride? Is it Beaches?
I don't know. I didn't do them all, but I think the first one I did was Pretty Woman, and I got a feel of that. And they're doing a very elaborate one on this film because we're putting back the old scenes. There was some scenes cut out of this that I liked that we're putting back, and they're going to do some on camera for some reason on this. So I guess DVD's a big business. So I'm going to do it. I don't know which one's better. I enjoy talking about it. It's a crazy business. You got to let the public know. I mean, even not my pictures. In Tombstone, my great stories, dated the ladies riding a horse. They wanted to ride English side saddle. She couldn't ride this way sideways. So they made her another leg. She's sitting like this on a horse, and another leg is coming out. And it looks like this is movies. It's a magical thing. You make a fountain, you make a leg. It's part of telling the story.
Is it fun to do commentary for you and to give up all these secrets?
I don't think there's secrets that are going to go in the pyramid. I think it's. I lecture around the country a lot, and I talk to the kids and the students and the regular people, and they're all fascinated by this, and they should understand. I don't like to tell them before they see it, but afterwards it's okay. It's it's like a magician telling the tricks. I think every picture's new tricks. I mean, I don't want to shock you, but there's some scenes in this movie that you never saw before, but there were some that you saw this area before. The good-looking guy in the high school, the makeover scene. So it's our job every time to make it different and make it new. And so how you come to that conclusion is interesting, because sometimes it's just pure luck, and sometimes it's really you work hard days and days and days and weeks to figure out how to get this to work or how to get that to work.
And one final question just about this. What's in your DVD player right now? Or which one would you what DVD would you recommend that I go?
I don't have one yet. I'm not very mechanical, but I seem to be popular on them. So I'm going to get one. I have a VCR that I can barely operate, but I got it. But I think I didn't hear so many. I don't know how to get it on that channel. You push a button. I'm not mechanical. So I am going to get into it, and then I'll inform you. I don't know what's good about. Penny did some, I think. I think she did something.
Garry, will you re-team with Julia Roberts again? Is there any plans?
Yeah, well, we always talk about this and that. There was a couple, she called me, and I have a lot of odd problems. Heights, I don't like to go up high. I'm not so good with horses. She once called me to do a picture. I said, there's so many horses. I don't do this well. But I did Runaway Bride, the horse I got. Actually, a lot of Runaway Bride. My son shot the horses. He can shoot anything. He's a filmmaker. He's a graduate of all the film schools. But we'll try, I think truly like to work with Annie again. I don't think we stretched her as far as she can go in this. So we're going to try some stuff with her. And I like to... I think people say, well, how do you choose? I usually choose who I'm going to work with. That's the excitement, is who I get to go with.
If I can go back.
Heather's line, I got that big laugh, big gang weight off behind you. I saw you there in the audience last night. What lines got the laugh that you didn't think you were going to get the laugh? Or which ones you thought were going to really hit?
Well, if it didn't hit, it's not in anymore. But I was trying out a couple of lines last night, though, these last 2 screenings. I'm still doing the sound, and we had brand new line is when Julie leaves the cable car and says, "Goodbye, trolley people." Got a big laugh, that one. We just put it in, and it was good.
You have to not have a close-up of the person?
You'll see in a lot of filmmakers work, comedy especially, a lot of lines are over people's heads, the back of their heads. No, we were far away. We had a long shot there, so we floated. You can't see her lips in that particular line there. But it's a couple of lines. She took that necklace and put it around her head like this in the early scene, and everybody laughed. I didn't think that was funny altogether. But I guess girls, with all that hair, it's funny. A few things didn't work. We had a big scene in the state dinner party, which worked very well in general. They're startled what we're doing there. Dignity and comedy work very well together. We had a thing where she took the wrong drink and she was choking, and we had a whole thing with Heimlich maneuver, and they were grabbing her and all that. It didn't work out, so we just cut it out. And it doesn't work. But usually, what you're not just saying I'll be funny. There's holes in this, you're going along and you need something to fill. So that's when you do lines later. There's a feng shui announcement. It's killing them because we had a big hole up there. You had to wait till he finished and she came up. So there's a big hole of the pace. So we threw that in, and that filled it. And then you go there. So we do a lot of all the voiceover work. If you watch League of Their Own, the first 5 big laughs are all voice put in later. We sat like 5 people saying, let's put a joke here, because the picture didn't start right. So you can do a lot of very good work the last minute. But the rest is physical, you got to shoot.
So do you sit with a punch-up guys you know are funny, or how do you do it? How do you think?
Well, so I'm funny. Sometimes I sit by myself. But no, but we do bring in people sometimes. And, I always have a punch-up writer on the set. Who, if we need something, we can. But it's really what I call chuffa. It's the kids need lines to go from here to there. They need to say something, but they ad-lib some pretty good stuff too. So it works both ways.
I thought the biggest laugh was Larry screaming, and you knew that was going to happen. I mean, it's so.
Yes, well, that's because we are all sick people. To mock is a big laugh. Yeah, that always kills them. Larry doing that, and when the kid's right. On the cards, what's your favorite scene? Where the guy said she was ugly and screamed, and where the guy got hit in the balls. That's what they write on the cards. That's their favorites. But I think comeuppance is a traditional part of the the worm turns, the underdog gets there. I think that's all a part. But to do it elegantly and charming with these lovely ladies,
And
this is
before
good.
you go, did you know who Mandy Moore was prior to casting her in the film?
I thought she was an MC. I didn't know she was such a singer until I checked out her work on MTV. Because she has a show on MTV. She chats with everybody. And she came in. She was just lovely. And, I've worked with singers and rock people. And then sometimes you can't hear what they sit like this in the chair. Hello? You can't hear them. But she came in. Hi. She wanted to be an actress. And she did so well. And she improved very well. Because, I said, there's a lot of fill here. You're going to have to chuffa here while we're doing this. And she just did it by herself.
And secondarily, did you deal directly with Whitney at all?
Yeah, she came. The highlight of the picture for me is she came on the set. She would come and go and help us with a lot of stuff. But she came on the set for my birthday, November 13th, and brought a cake. And she and Julie Andrews together sang Happy Birthday. Doesn't happen every day. I thought that was and then we took a picture. So I have that. That was a highlight. But Whitney did a picture, Preacher's Wife, with my sister Penny. So Penny knows everybody. So I'm always pre-introduced. But I just think to do a G picture and make people laugh hard was a great challenge to me, because I see all the different members of the family laugh. And, to have 85 and 5 laugh at the same thing is difficult, but I think we brought it off, and hopefully they'll come.
If I can get one last thing. When you say that you're not mechanical to the point where you're having trouble with your VCR, it seems very surprising to hear that from a film director, because I think the perception is that that's a very technical job. Is that not true?
Well, I have learned way when I was very young that I could not do everything. And I decided, find out what you can do, and then hire people to do the other stuff. So you got to do what you do very well, and then you're allowed. This is the true story. Penny shooting League of Their Own, right? 1,700 extras at the baseball field. 13 stars in League of Their Own. 13, all women, except Tom Hanks. And she's shooting, and she's got 6 cameras. I'm in it. I'm playing the boss in this movie. So I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at her, and I said, honey, isn't this great? I mean, I know her. She grew up in my house. So I said, isn't this great? All these things, all these cameras, all these people. She says, yeah, it's very scary. She says, I really think we should send one of the kids to school to learn what the hell we're doing. And that's why my son Scott graduated from Northwestern Film School and the American Film Institute with a master's. He knows everything mechanical you could learn. And so he helps both. He shoots for Penny, he shoots for me. Backup. He shoots his own. He's a music video director. And he gives us a lot of stuff. But I think people always ask me at film school, if you can tell a story and you can be honest with stuff and you can make people laugh, you can still say, I don't know the lens, sir, but make sure it's like this. You can still say that. My son says, I need a 50 millimeter, I think, and then he'll tell me, Dad, you can't shoot that. There's another camera. It's a Fraser lens. You don't know about it. I'll get it. And you can shoot this. You can shoot this bottle and the thing like that. So I rely on other people, and many of them are in my family. Okay? Thank you. I'm going to Father's Day tonight.
It's a wonderful thing.
Thank you. We're trying to keep something out there that everybody could go to. In the world of dysfunctional families, one of the dysfunctions, they don't go out together. Who do you?
It's for celebrity auction.
Celebrity auction. Well, I don't want to write on her head. Here. She was not thrilled with her chin. I think I'll go over here.
Well, while you're signing this,
I don't know. I'm just joking.
While you're doing
Posters, you're bigger than life. It's scary. W-E-E-Z-Y. They did a visit. What me?
It's from Louise.
Oh yeah, Wheezy. I know that name. I have a friend, Louise. Yes, somebody said something.
it's okay. They need to
Yeah,
Okay.
we're falling a little
I can do it off the air if you want. Thank you very much.
So we're back from the Garry Marshall interview. Very insightful, very entertaining interview.
Hi again. It's us.
Oh, hi, you're here, Matt. I just wanted to say.
Yeah, I just walked in.
Okay, very cool. So we're back from Garry Marshall now. Anything you want to say about Mr. Marshall? Other than we've said a lot.
I think it was all pretty self-explanatory. Just really, really great guy. Very missed.
Now the next up we have Mandy Moore and Erik Von Detten, which I had no idea.
Well, one of these two went on to become a major star. Can you guess which one?
Erik Von Detten.
Yep. Erik Von Detten's major claim to fame was that he was the voice of Sid, the psychotic neighbor kid in the original Toy Story. He was the one who tortured his toys, if you remember. So if you want, when you listen to this interview, you can pretend that we're talking to Sid and Rapunzel from Tangled, together at last. Erik also played Carl Scott on Dinotopia, if you watched that show. If you didn't, he still played that role, you just weren't seeing it. He was also the voice of Erwin Lawson on the animated series Recess, and his IMDb bio reads, possessing leading man good looks and undeniable charm, Erik Von Detten has proven himself to be an actor of unquestionable talent. So, there's that. Greg, you want to tell us about Mandy Moore? I know you had all of her CDs.
I didn't have a lot of her. I liked Mandy Moore growing up, I guess. I used to be in a big pop thing, so I liked her pop stuff. I liked her music. I liked that she eventually, years later, I'm jumping back and forth, she eventually married Ryan Adams, one of my favorite musicians of all time. I love that. And, I still do interviews now and again. I did interview her recently, a couple years back, for This Is Us, the NBC series, which she's getting a lot of acclaim for.
Yeah, she plays the triplets' mother, Rebecca. She's awesome in it. She's really good.
Right, and she's always, I've interviewed her a bunch of times, like the This Is Us a couple years back, but one of the things I actually had not a personal encounter. During one of the interviews, I was trying to get really smart with her. This was for, I believe this was...
That's not a good idea for you to try that with anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm not smart, period. There's this movie she did. I'm looking it up right now. It's in 2007. She did a film called Because I Said So with Diane Keaton, starring Diane Keaton, Mandy Moore, and Gabriel Macht. It's directed by...
Vaguely remember that one.
Right. It's directed by Michael Lehman, the guy who did Heathers. But this is...
And Hudson Hawk.
And Hudson Hawk, right. So it was a romantic comedy in 2007, and I was just being a smart aleck. I asked her, Mandy, do you think Because I Said So is a movie that'll appeal to guys? And I just said it in a really sarcastic way, and she looked at me and she goes, really? I just remembered that remark. She said it in a sweet way, but she just in her Mandy Moore way, really? Yeah, I just made sure I did shut up after she mentioned that.
She wasn't wrong.
She wasn't wrong to just stop. She was not wrong.
I got to say, I think I got Mandy Moore's back here.
Yeah, right. And then, a year later, actually the same year in 2007, she starred with Robin Williams in License to Wed. And she's been in a whole bunch of movies. You mentioned Tangled being a big one for her. But I think lately she hasn't done an album in years after having a semi-successful career as a pop artist. Yeah. She actually eventually, I think it's This Is Us, which brought her back as far as, she has a really great show behind her now, and it's another chapter in her career.
And it's not a teenage role; it's an adult role.
Yeah.
She did a lot of teenage roles for a long time, and of course, she's still doing Rapunzel. I mean, that comes up from time to time. I think there's a TV show that she's involved with.
Tangled, the series, 2017, 2008.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So anyway, we did this interview in 2001. I don't know whether we said that yet, but this junket took place then. And at the time, Mandy was getting ready to release her third pop album, the self-titled Mandy Moore. For those of you keeping track, she has put out 6 albums to date, so this was right in the middle. And other than a quick little voice role in Dr. Dolittle 2, The Princess Diaries was her very first movie. And technically, I guess this was her second film, but her first on screen. So she wasn't really an actress yet. She was a pop star playing, small roles in movies. So for me, as the writer of a pop music radio show, she was the most important interview of the day because she was a big music star, and it was hard to get a one-on-one with her through her music label. So this was my chance to get a bunch of sound bites for my show for when we played her music. When the movie came out, I would maybe use a soundbite from one or two of the bigger stars, and that was it. But if Mandy Moore's got a song on the charts, then I would pull sound bites from her to precede playing that song week after week after week after week. So I was much less interested in asking her about The Princess Diaries. Anytime I could steer the conversation over to her music or her albums, that's what was valuable to me. So you're going to hear me monopolizing the first part of this interview with that. And I think I even shouted someone else down who was trying to change the subject. Back off, we're asking music questions.
You're a bully, Matt.
I could be when I needed to be.
Yeah.
Luckily, Louise Palanker from Premier Radio Networks was at the table with us, and she also did music shows, so she backed me up. Thank you, Wheezy.
Thank you, Wheezy.
That's all I have. Anything more you want to say about these two?
That's it for Mandy Moore and Erik von Detten. And here we go.
Let's get to the interview then.
Let's get to it.
Garry rocks.
Well, then you know what? Tell us about your new album.
The new album comes out Tuesday, June 19th. Trying to plug. No. Tuesday, June 19th.
Oh, okay.
How's it
Yeah, I know, right?
How is it the next step up?
I think it's the next step. It's just different from what people would expect from me, I think. They expected Candy Part 2 and they were really caught off guard by the first single, I think. I don't know. I think there's a lot of organic elements to it, whether it's live guitar, bass, percussion, a string quartet, something. I just wanted to, combine that live band aspect to be able to go on stage and not necessarily have track and dance to every song with choreography. That was important to me.
Now, how hard was it to, convince the business people who do want, you to do the same thing every time?
I think they were ready for a change too. But it was, a lot of the songs actually on the album are still in demo form, where my manager and I, we found all these songs. We actually just went and recorded them like in a garage with somebody. And that's how they kind of came out on the album, which was kind of cool. But that's what it took to come to the label with songs in their roughest form, in their rawest form, and present them and go, this is what I want to do, this is the direction I want to go in. And finally, they were truly convinced.
And how are the fans reacting?
I don't know. We'll have to find out on Tuesday and see how people are really liking the album, but I think it took people a little bit to get used to In My Pocket. They were like, well, that's different. That's not the Mandy we know, which was kind of cool, and I mean, I guess you really have to expect it, though, when you're going to kind of make a little bit of a departure, a little bit of a left turn.
Is this part of a grand scheme, like to not be the 14-year-old girl your whole life?
It's no scheme. I mean, it's just me growing up and wanting to do music that I'm really proud of. I mean, let's face it, a lot of people don't know it, but as a new artist and a lot of new artists, you really don't have a say of what goes on your record. You're brought songs, especially in the pop industry, you're brought songs and you have to record them, and that's just the way it goes, whether or not you like them or you're happy about them or not. And I wasn't happy with a lot of the songs that were on my first album and were on the special edition album, and I was determined to change that this go round and have every song on the album something that I was truly proud of and ready to get out there and promote and have people hear. And that's what I feel now, and it's such a difference. It's such an amazing feeling, like I feel so much more a part of the creative process. Even though I wrote only one song on the album, I still feel so much more connected to the music this go round than ever before.
Is In My Pocket the single?
In My Pocket's the first single.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Could you just sing it? Thank you.
It was produced by Emilio Estefan and his whole Camped Out in Miami. Doesn't have that really Latin theme. They were actually trying to do something different. Obviously, they're known for such artists, Ricky Martin and Gloria, obviously, and Jennifer Lopez and stuff. And it was just really rockin' pop with this Middle Eastern twang to it that I'd never heard before in pop music. And I think a lot of pop music is focused around synthesizers and the R&B leaning pop that's really out there on the radio today. And I wanted to lean away from that because I really have no soul in my voice whatsoever, and I'd rather get out on stage and rock out with the live band and like dance around on stage like doing my own thing and not having choreography and like, just interact with the band and stuff. So that's kind of what I wanted to do on this album.
And what's the single about?
Single's about? It's a fun song. It's not to be taken to the heart and broken down and find out what it's really about. I think it's cool because it's a song about having confidence, but it's not like a guy bashing song. It's a girl who's very confident. Like, I know that among the many muted faces you try to find me in the spaces you're drawn to my song. Like, I know you're out there and I know you see me and you want to approach me and talk to me, so just go ahead and do it. So it's confidence without being like crossing the line and stuff.
Are you confident like that?
I'm sorry, Erik.
Eric, we were in the bathroom, so we were taking advantage. Are you confident like that? And you were gone. Yeah.
I'm pretty confident like that. I'm as I chew my cookie with my mouth, like talk with my mouth full. I'm pretty confident, but I'm still finding myself like anybody else would. I'm still 17,
Well, some of the kids on the set, and I'll ask Erik this question, were saying that they were expecting you to be a certain way, but like almost like the girl that you play, but you so weren't. So Erik, can you move in a little closer to the mic and talk about any expectations you had of Mandy and how she was and how much fun everybody wasn't on the set?
I was so not fun to work with, so I'll just phrase it like that.
Oh, come on. No, I met Mandy. We briefly met. That doesn't really count because we just said a quick hello. But then we met at the table read, and I didn't know it was her first project until after the table read, and I thought that she'd been acting for years. The way she pulled off the character at the table.
Come on. You're very nice. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Well, you guys had that scene the first time we see you when you're just making out for a really long time. Were you guys friends at that point, or was that really awkward?
It was the first day on set, actually. We had just met, really, and started working with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I
think it was part of a grand scheme, to make us feel like what can they do to embarrass us the most, to make us feel the most awkward on set the first day, having us make out. So that was kind of weird, but it was okay. It all worked out.
Oh yeah, totally. Garry Marshall made it a very comfortable environment for us. especially by giving us a little demonstration with his first AD.
Mm-hmm.
He did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Totally made out with her?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Well, not
yeah.
like totally like, but a screen makeout.
Oh.
An on-screen makeout.
Well, now what's the difference?
Well,
Less spit.
Less spit, no tongue.
Was it fun to be, let's spit no time. Was it fun to be that nasty a girl?
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna stop eating my cookie now. I'm sorry.
You were nasty.
I was nasty. It was fun. It was fun to come to set and like be able to relieve my aggravation and my stress and my anger and being pissed off and all of that stuff. Like, yeah, because I have so much of that in my life. But just to be able to go to set and I have an excuse to get all of that out.
Well, did both of you, was it kind of a way to get back at certain people maybe in your high school to play something so awful for both of you?
Well, I wasn't that nice, huh?
In the movie?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, come on, dude. You weren't very nice in the movie.
Nice to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it, babe.
Morgan.
Thanks.
Girls, take it away.
Did you base your character on anybody at your school? Anybody that was particularly horrible or?
Oh, I think she is the stereotypical general popular cheerleading girl that's at any school that like makes herself feel good to put others down and obviously has like this real self-confidence issue. But secretly everyone loves to hate her, even though they really love her. And she's at everyone's school. She's like at every school across America, in every high school, elementary school, middle school. She's there.
What were you like at school?
I was halfway between the really, really popular clique and like the bookworm clique. I was somewhere like in between, straddling that line.
What about you, Erik?
I was dating all the teachers. No, I didn't go to high school. I stopped going to school in public school in the 5th grade, and then it was just on-set tutoring. So.
Dude, does that make you feel like, well, who would I have been? You know, like if you drive by a high school and you think, well, where would I have been sitting? You know, do you ever?
Yeah, I used to, like, a few years ago, when I had the option to go to high school, you know, I'd ask myself that question all the time and, like, talk to my friends and say, like, do you think I should go? Where would I fit in if I went? But, like, you know, when I look back now, I'm glad that I didn't go to high school, you know, because I love the life I'm leading now.
So is it fun to get to play high school and this kind of
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
What about sports and things like that?
What kind of sports do I like to do?
Yeah, do you miss not being able to be on a team or any of that kind of stuff?
Oh, like the football team, varsity, and all that.
Clubs or teams or whatever?
No, I was, my neighborhood was just more like the neighborhood football game, you know, that kind of stuff. And I'm also in a lot of solo sports, surfing, sailing, stuff, golfing, you know. So I didn't miss out as far as that goes. Maybe just I missed out on the cheerleaders, that's it.
But you got actresses, so, you know, you get to meet actresses.
Yeah.
You get to kiss Mandy.
Yeah.
I mean, you told your friends, right? Oh, look at this, check out this page in the script. Here's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be kissing Mandy more. Were people impressed or interested?
No.
Yeah.
They couldn't have been.
Of course. Yeah, all my friends were, I was looked up to after they read that.
Mandy, you get to sing the film you did, Stupid Cupid. Was that in the script, or was that just we have a pop star, we better have a sing?
It wasn't in the script, but magically it appeared during the table reading, which I thought was quite weird. No, it wasn't originally in the script, but they had talked about it and toyed around with the idea, and I was like, sure, if it kind of blends in and it's just like not some music video in the middle of the movie, which I would have no point to the story whatsoever. And it's just, you know, it's at the beach party, and it was kitschy, it was cute, and it was fun. And it was Lana singing, I say. You know, if I had been really singing, I probably would have performed it a little differently. But it was fun. It was, I liked getting up there and for the first time, like, singing a song that wasn't my own and getting to dance around to it and have it all on film, documented.
Whose idea was it to do it sort of like, it looks a little like the Elvis Presley was and Margaret, you know, this that kind of moment.
It was Gary's idea, I think, to do all of that, to kind of present it in that fashion, in that way.
How many
There's
takes have
two
you
real
getting home?
queens of music involved with this picture. Julie Andrews on one side, Whitney Houston on the other.
I know. How weird is that?
Can you talk a little bit about your impressions of these people and then actually meeting them and maybe share something with them?
You know what? Whitney Houston came to set the week after I was wrapped and surprised everybody and took pictures and signed autographs and stuff. So I was very bummed out. I wasn't there. Erik, you were there, right?
Yes, I was. It's okay. I got you an autograph.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
And then meeting Julie again, she was like amazing, like the epitome of class and beauty. And my mom was just excited to meet her as I was, which I thought was really cool. And I just, having her sign my little Sound of Music CD and taking pictures with her and stuff was great. So, yeah, I loved it.
And she's cool about that. Like you would think she might get sick of people saying stuff about the Sound of Music or Mary Poppins, but she doesn't seem to.
She didn't seem to at all, no. I mean, of course I met her for all of 30 seconds, and she's Julie Andrews. She doesn't have to sign my CD and take a picture with me. I was like the dot in the background. She didn't have to care about me, but she was just, she rocked.
Well, did you have any trepidation about sharing screen time with a rising star of not only films, but certainly of music?
Yeah. No, I think we had great chemistry. Our characters, being
we had fun.
So evil together.
We had a good time. It was cool because all of the younger people in the movie got to hang out, like even after the camera wasn't rolling, and we went and saw movies. All of us. We went out to dinner. Yeah. We hit all the clubs and the bars and stuff like that. No. We had fun in San Francisco. We went out to dinner. We had your birthday party during the filming of the movie. We went to the beach and stuff. That was fun.
How old are you guys?
17.
18.
Mandy, do you worry about your fans? Because they're going to think that, you're playing a sweet character and actually you're not. Are you concerned about their reaction?
I'm not concerned because I think people are smart enough to realize the difference between a movie and real life, between fantasy and reality. So I'm not concerned about it. It's acting, and that's the fun of acting. That's the challenge of acting, is playing someone very different from yourself.
Who do you want to play next?
You know what? I actually just finished a Warner Brothers film called A Walk to Remember, and I played the daughter of a Southern Baptist minister in 1996. I have dark brown hair, bangs, dowdy clothes. It's not a teen movie, so it's like the other spectrum, I guess, of a character that you can play, like a really good-hearted, sweet individual. So it's nice.
Do blondes have more fun than brunettes?
I don't think so. I liked being a brunette better, actually. It was fun. I felt like a totally different person. It's so weird how hair color can make you feel like completely different. But I loved it. I loved it.
And what's the name of this film?
A Walk to Remember.
Now, did both of you ever have that experience that Anne goes through in the film where, one day no one looks at you, suddenly you've got a record, suddenly you've got a movie, and you've got new friends?
Oh, yeah. We all go through that, I think. I found during down times where I wasn't acting or on a show or having a movie come out, I'd feel down, subjected. I want to do something with my life, this and that, but yeah, every once in a while, you're handed a tiara.
I think it's the cliched thing. You find out who your true friends are. Automatically, if you enter this business, your circle of friends gets smaller, a lot smaller. So,
Why is that? Just time-wise?
Time-wise, but, you really find out, I remember leaving school and, telling my teachers, like, I have a record deal, I'm leaving. And they're like, okay, well, we'll see you next semester. And having my friends tell me, like, in January, when they all got back to school, the teachers were still calling my name, like, on roll. And I was absent for, like, literally 4.5 weeks, and people didn't know why. But automatically people are like, oh, she's too good. She left school. She has a record deal. Like, and I hadn't done anything. I just left school to venture off and try this thing. But you find out who your true friends are, the people that are going to stick up for you and are there for you to call at 3 o'clock in the morning if you have a problem and they don't mind you waking them up and stuff. I think that's a true friend.
Where are you from?
I'm from Orlando.
And could you talk a little bit, like the Reader's Digest version of how you got into the music business?
The Reader's Digest version. I got into the music industry, just a lucky break, recording a demo in a studio on my own dime, and the FedEx guy, a FedEx guy heard me sing, and I didn't even know that he worked for FedEx, but he had been in and out of the studio, he had friends there, and I had met him, briefly, very casually. He took my demo, unbeknownst to me, obviously talked to my parents about it, but they didn't want to say anything to me in case nothing came to fruition, and sent the demo off. He had a friend at Epic Records, and it was so rough and horrible and bad that I don't know how anybody could hear something remotely promising from it, but they did, and they flew down to Orlando, and we had a meeting, and I signed with them shortly after.
Have you seen him since, the FedEx guy?
Yeah, he comes, the FedEx guy, Victor, he comes to all of the shows in Orlando. He's very supportive. He's always stayed in the background. He's very cool about everything.
But you know the movie Castaway, right? That was the mysterious content in the package.
Seems like everybody on the radio these days is from Orlando. Is there something in the water there?
No, a lot of people say they're from Orlando, but they're not really from Orlando. No, the whole Transcontinental where NSYNC and Backstreet Boys came out of, and then right across the street, literally across the parking lot, is Johnny Wright's office, who manages Britney and NSYNC and a bunch of other pop acts. So they all just say they're kind of from Orlando, but I'm really from Orlando. I grew up there my whole life, and I went to school there, and my house is there, my family's still there. So, but I think people tend to forget we have other acts. We have Matchbox 20, Creed, Brian McKnight, Seven Mary 3, a lot of other, great, huge acts in music today that are from Orlando.
Mickey and Minnie.
Mickey and Minnie.
You get compared to kind of Britney Spears and so forth with your singing. Are you concerned about being compared to her? Because she's obviously just on her first movie as well.
I don't think so. I think, from what I've heard, I think it's two completely different movies, especially the movie that I have coming out in January, Walk to Remember. I'm not concerned about it at all. If anything, I think that's going to, set us apart even more from the pack.
And also, Christina Aguilera is looking at scripts at the moment. What advice would you give her for finding a good movie role?
Just be completely enthusiastic and excited about the script, because at the end of the day, and make sure every aspect is good. An amazing director, cast, script, where you're shooting, that all makes for the most amazing experience.
What are some of your goals, Erik? What do you want to accomplish?
I want to go to college. I really think that's a necessity. My grandma's always telling me, you got to go to college. And I had to talk with Garry about it. I'm like, I want to direct, what should I do? And he's like, college, you got to go to college. And he's like, not just for a film degree, but, you got to go to college because the director has to have knowledge in all areas, So I'd say college is definitely a goal of mine, and just to get a degree under my belt. And just from there on, who knows what path I take. I have no idea. Stay in the moment.
Do you have a project coming out?
I just finished shooting a movie with Brad Renfro and Jenna Malone called Lifer's Picnic, but the title's in the process of being changed.
To want to go to college, there must be a certain type of film that you want to make. To be a director as such, what are you aiming for? What do you hope to?
Oh man, I'd like to direct. I'd like to direct just a few short films just to get some practice under my belt, though. But what kind of film would I really?
Favorite directors, influences.
Oh, favorite influences. Well, Spielberg's a god, Michael Mann. Gosh, so many others.
Mandy, are you an aficionado or collector of DVDs at all? Do you watch them?
I watch DVDs, but I'm not really a collector of them yet.
What have you got in your CD player right now, or what have you seen that you could recommend?
What do I have in my CD player right now?
In your
my DVD player right now. I have Sex and the City in my DVD player right now. The second season. I haven't started watching it. You know how that just came out, the collection? I'm a big Sex and the City fan. Although my dad, I remember my mom and I were watching it, and my dad came into the room. He's like, "What are you watching? That's inappropriate for you to be watching." I'm like, "Dad, come on." My dad's pretty conservative about that type of stuff. But I love Sex and the City. I'm very upset because Beaches is my favorite movie. No joke. I'm a huge Bette Midler fan, and it's not made on DVD. So I carry around my cassette copy of it everywhere that I go, on the road.
Did you ask Garry when it's coming out? Because sometimes they stagger those releases.
I'm gonna have to ask, with us. But they told me when I've asked at a couple of different video stores and music stores that sell videos too, and I've asked, and they're like, well, right now there are no plans to release it on DVD, and I'm like, very upset.
E.T. isn't out on DVD yet.
Really?
No.
There's some classics that need. Come on, Beaches. Everybody loves Beaches. Needs to be on DVD. Eric's like, yeah.
Eric's like, yeah, guys, they
Love
get together
Beaches.
and they get some beers and they watch the Beaches. Needs to happen.
Exactly.
So Mandy, what's the plan for you in terms of music versus acting? Are they going to continue to go side by side?
I think they're going to continue to go side by side. Like, I'd love to do another film this fall if it fits in with the schedule. If the record company is going to be nice enough to let me go for a little bit and try some more. But I love it.
What about a musical? Like, what classic musical would you love to star
Mm, Guys and Dolls. I want to be Miss Adelaide on Broadway. That's a goal of mine.
How'd you get cast in Walk to Remember?
Auditioning. I auditioned. Oh, dude, I worked my butt off because it's one of my favorite books. Nicholas Sparks. I'm a huge Nicholas Sparks fan. I actually meet him on set. He came on set the second day, and it's like, oh my gosh, here's a guy that created this character who's actually based on his sister, who passed away from brain cancer last year, and he based my character on her, and it was just like, it was very overwhelming. But I auditioned. I worked my butt off. I went and actually met with Adam Shankman, who's amazing, the director. I met with him, and I totally clicked with him. I was like, this guy is just as passionate about the story as I am. I have to do this movie. And I went and read with the casting director and him, waited a month, came back and read with Shane West, who eventually got the part opposite me, and waited for like another month while they were auditioning in LA and New York. And I was freaking out. I was like, I have to get this part. And finally got the call, and I'm like, yes! I was so psyched.
We interviewed, or at least some of us have interviewed Brittany and Christina and so on. The challenges of being in that public arena that way are enormous, and probably nothing that any of us, with the exception of yourself, could possibly comprehend. What you seem so much different than those gals. You're so much more grounded and so much more literary, and seem to have so much more access to yourself.
Well, with credit to them too, they're huge, like, mega superstars, and I'm not like in the same league as them. But I think it's all a matter of surrounding yourself with the right people. You know, I would never want to be like around people that are going to cater to my every need. What's the point? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I can get up and get my
Would you
own...
like another cookie?
Like, I can get up and get my own cookie, you know what I mean? It's, but even surrounding yourself with, like my parents are always on the road with me, which I think is so important, because you need that support, you need, like, that structure around you that's not somebody that's involved with the business or only knows that side of you, of being involved in singing and in the industry and everything like that. And even the right managers and record company that's going to make the right decisions and are in with you for the long haul and aren't just there to make the quick buck and get out. Do you know what I mean?
What are the challenges, though, of not going there?
The challenges. It's a lot of obstacles. Like, I think we've been pretty successful in terms of, like, breaking a new artist, like, the unconventional way. Like, I was touring before I had a first single out. I was on tour with NSYNC, like, performing as an opening act for them before I even had a first single out. There's so many things that we've done that are different that people would go, that is so not the way, especially to break a pop artist. But I think that's important. That's a way to help you jump over the obstacles and get rid of those hurdles.
Mandy, I wanted to ask you, there's been some attention recently with Nicole Kidman's Stalker and some crazy fans. Have you had any crazy fans at all? Have you had any bad experiences?
No, I haven't had any crazy fans. No, not yet. Thank goodness.
Do you read stuff about you on the internet? Look at web pages?
I go on the internet a lot. I read a lot of like internet sites that people have devoted to me and stuff. I think it's very flattering, and I love going on there and thanking people, and it's crazy. You know what I mean?
Is it a little freaky?
It's freaky that people know so much about you. You're like, wow, like people know stuff before you even know it sometimes. You're like, oh, so that's the official word. I haven't even heard that yet.
So here you are. You don't even have a single out, and you're touring with NSYNC.
Mm-hmm.
Are they nice to you?
They were so nice to me. And they're still nice to me. I see them at award shows. They're like, Mandy, and they give me hugs and how have you been? I was like, you guys are in sync. You don't need to talk to me anymore. Like, you don't need to talk to anyone. They were great. I think that's the true test of, like, people that are going to withstand everything and hold their own in the music industry. And I think right now, just on a side note, like, they are redefining pop music as it stands right now. Dude, that first single of theirs is so amazing.
It kicks.
It does. That is so awesome. I love them for that.
What do you think of Eminem ripping them apart?
Of Eminem? Look at you, Mr. Interviewer.
What do you think?
I love Eminem, actually. I met him at MTV Spring Break in 2000 in Cancun, and he walked right by me and then backed up. He's like, "Hey, I'm Eminem. I wanted to say hi." I'm like, "I'm Mandy. Nice to meet you." And he'd just gotten off stage before me. I think he's so talented. I really do. He's amazing, and I love his album. And obviously you have to ignore some of the stuff that he talks about and obviously not take it to heart, but whatever. He's cool. He's doing something different.
Would you duet with him if he asked?
Would I work with him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely work with him.
Do you like him, Erik?
I think he's extremely talented. I mean, probably the god of freestyle rapping.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, you really have to listen.
Yeah, but you know what? You don't have to believe in everything that he's talking about. You don't necessarily have to stand for everything that he's talking about, but at least acknowledge how talented he is, you know?
Before they take you away, how do you celebrate, both of you, how do you celebrate 4th of July, Independence Day? Just a bit of an agenda question.
I just do the typical thing. I go with my family. We grab a blanket and we walk over to the local park and just sit down and watch the fireworks show. It's in El Segundo. It's actually grown really popular now. People from all over are coming to see it.
I usually do the same thing. Last year I was in London, though. It was very funny to be in London for the 4th of July. It was like, this is awkward. But it was cool.
No, we don't.
No, obviously, yeah.
They all get drunk.
They're not going to celebrate.
Why'd we let it go?
Our independence.
Was it weird?
It was a little weird. I mean, they talk about it a little bit, but it was like, happy 4th of July. Like, to other people that in the crew, you couldn't say it around like everybody else. But I thought that was weird. But yeah, I usually just celebrate it with the family, the fireworks, the picnic.
Thank you.
Typical American.
Thank you.
Sure.
No offense, I apologize on behalf of
Sure.
We're radio.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's not that we're not interested.
This is for a 10-year-old girl who lives in a village.
It's the misfortune of being paired up with someone.
Olivia, sure.
I know.
Those machines? No. I want to use them, okay?
She's gonna take it on.
She gives you. Oh, she already told you. Yeah, there you go.
You can blame me.
Yeah, she buy it.
Which one's new? Oh, there's. Oh, you need to sign this.
Oh, I get a sign?
Yeah.
Thanks, guy.
Thanks, it was so fun.
Thanks.
You never know what this thing.
Oh, yeah, you want to with us?
I'm okay.
It makes for good radio.
Thank you very much.
And we're back from Erik Von Detten and Mandy Moore.
We are.
Matt, you have anything else to?
I've got, a few things. We had a little bit of autograph signing at the end there, in case you were wondering what all that chatter was about. Erik said that he had just finished shooting a movie with Brad Renfro and Jenna Malone called Lifer's Picnic. That title changed. It was released in 2002 as American Girl, and then in 2005 it was released to DVD under a third title, Confessions of an American Girl. And then Tom Petty saw the movie, got into a time machine, traveled back to 1977, and wrote a song about it. And then subsequently, he created the American Girl dolls. So we have Erik Von Detten to thank for all of that.
Thank you, Erik.
Erik talked about his plans to become a director. So far, that has not happened. He's only acted. It was interesting hearing Mandy talk about how that third album of hers represented growing up and evolving creatively, because we've watched her do the same thing with her on-screen career, going from teenage roles to now playing the matriarch on This Is Us. Mandy Moore will be happy to know that Beaches is now available on DVD or even Blu-ray. Look for it wherever great movies are sold. Mandy said she dreams of playing Miss Adele in Guys and Dolls on Broadway. That has not happened yet. Not even a bushel and a peck. In fact, I can find no record of her ever having done any professional stage work, and I think she'd be great in a musical. I'm just going to throw this out there. Mandy, if you're listening, when you get your next hiatus, go to New York and spend a few months playing Jenna in Waitress. Get your people on it. You'd kill in that role. Finally, she said that she'd love to work with Eminem. To date, she has not. But, Mandy, when you take my advice and go to Broadway to star in Waitress, see if you can get Eminem to play Augie.
Nice. See?
Yeah.
You're the PR person for that production.
I'm sort of kidding. Eminem would not make a good Augie. But, Broadway people are going to laugh at that. The rest of you are just going to scratch your heads. Anyway.
You mentioned Louise Palanker, who was a co-founder of Premier Networks. You gave a little quick shout out to her. I was doing a little bit of digging. We're not Facebook friends, but I remember.
Why not?
Well, are you friends with her?
This isn't about me.
Well, anyways, she shared a bunch of online tables with me and Matt. Obviously, she was the senior member because she created that whole Premiere Networks. So she was actually a little bit a little bit more experienced than me and Matt at the time. But I dug
kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal. Lately, I just found out Luis Palanker is now the creator and head of a podcast called Things I Found Online podcast, and you could find that on the Things I Found Online Facebook page and the YouTube channel. So just Google things, or go to YouTube, go to Things I Found Online podcast, and you will find Luis Palanker, a voice you know from these wonderful Princess Diaries interviews.
Always happy to promote our colleagues.
Okay, so yeah, that's that.
Definitely. Moving on now to Anne Hathaway, who plays Mia Thermopolis, a 17-year-old newcomer. She's very green, but full of talent, and we expect big things from her.
I think we do. Did you? Okay, Matt, when you interviewed her, did you think this is a star? From your recollection,
I didn't think she was any more of a star than anyone else we talked to. I mean, everyone we interviewed had been in a movie. That's why we were talking to them. So, they all kind of had that star quality. But she was great. I mean, it's a good interview. She's very together. I mean, for a 17-year-old girl, I guess a good comparison would be I spent 90 minutes interviewing Britney Spears right at the beginning of her career when she had just released Baby One More Time. And that interview was like pulling teeth. And she said the word like probably 20 times in every sentence. It was like sitting with the head cheerleader. Anne Hathaway was at the complete other end of that spectrum. I mean, she came to us fully formed, even as a 17-year-old.
Right. During the interview, she talks about her passion for education, being raised, in a grounded fashion by her parents. There is a whole list of stuff. I mean, look, Princess Diaries was 2001. From 1999 to 2000, she was in the TV series Get Real, 22 episodes of that show.
Yeah, and that was prior to this, and she talks about that a little bit.
Yeah.
She played the sister to Jesse Eisenberg.
Oh, very cool. Did you ever see that show? I never
did, no.
But over the years, I've interviewed her. I've interviewed her for a whole bunch of films. Rachel Getting Married, and you got an Oscar nomination for that.
Yeah.
Les Miserables, which was obviously her Oscar. Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman in The Dark Knight Rises, directed by Christopher Nolan. She comes back again to work with Christopher Nolan, this time with Matthew McConaughey in Interstellar, which was released in 2014. Most recently this year, obviously last year in 2018, she was in Ocean's 8, spearheading that. She stole the show in that as well, with co-starring Sandra Bullock. But most recently this year, she was in Serenity, which was, as you know, listeners, if you've seen Serenity, it's a big mind F of a movie. No, I'm not going to give any spoilers away. So she's been obviously working steadily as an A-list actor for years. One thing that you should definitely pick up from this interview, going back to her passion for education, was her lifelong goal of making a difference. And, obviously with her work in UNICEF and with the Me Too movement, voting rights, so many things she's done for charity over the years. That acting is not just her primary thing. She also wants to do other things outside of the business.
And you hear the seeds of that in this interview.
Yeah.
With this, you're listening to this 17-year-old girl, and you can tell that that's the direction she's going to move in. You can hear it.
Yep.
In the things that she talks about. So you mentioned Get Real. She does talk about that a little bit. She also talks about this little scene Disney film that she made called The Other Side of Heaven, which had come and gone quickly about 4 months prior to this junket. Basically, those were her only two roles before The Princess Diaries, and The Princess Diaries was really kind of what put her on the map. And once again, Garry Marshall discovering a fresh talent. So anyway, unless you've got anything more you need to say about Anne Hathaway.
That's it for now. I have a very quick postscript after this interview, but here we go with Anne Hathaway for The Princess Diaries.
How is everybody today? Is everybody great? Happy? It looks like you've got a nice assortment of cookies, or at least you got good chocolate.
So many cookies.
You know what? Eating during the interview, that's cheesy. No, I'm okay. Great, wonderful.
Hidden under our...
I'll have one in between. So, everyone, hi, I'm Annie.
So, your first starring role, was it intimidating?
What's going on in there?
No, I just missed the can 3 times.
So starring role, big summer movie, co-starring with Julie Andrews.
Yeah.
Was this intimidating? Were you scared?
Certainly I was. It's very funny because I got scared before we began filming, and I forgot about it while we were filming because Garry just really put me at ease so wonderfully, and he's such a great man and so great to work with and just to know. And then after the movie wrapped, it occurred to me that, wow, we just made a movie. And it just occurred to me actually a few days ago that people are going to see it because somebody said, what will you do if one of your favorite celebrities sees the movie and likes it? And I said, I think I'd just be able to die of happiness. But it occurred to me that people hopefully are going to see this film, and that's a huge concept, but I'm very proud of it. And I'm proud of the messages and what it stands for. And so I'm not that nervous anymore.
I think she's nervous now.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to rip some paper out, but I didn't want to.
Well, thank you. That's very nice of you.
We're very sound conscious.
Evidently. Yes, I felt bad. I jumped in the hallway and my shoes slapped. Do you want a chair? Because we don't have... Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you fit in high school?
Oh, I wasn't a dork, certainly, but I wasn't Miss Popular at all. I had my group of friends, and we knew who we were, and we had fun. We would go to movies and drive around and complain that there was nothing to do, and we just did your typical teenage stuff.
Talk on the phone.
Talk on the phone all the time. Actually, that was what saved me while I was doing Get Real, and which I had to do during my senior year. I would call them every once in a while, and we would talk, and I had enormous phone bills, but it was okay because it was worth it. And the internet was great with that too.
Now, what about some of the physical stuff? And then I'll let you go get.
No, it's fine.
We know that you injured yourself by accident, but it seemed that you're just really adept at knowing what will be funny.
When did I injure myself?
Slipping on the bench.
When you slipped on the bench.
Oh, that didn't hurt.
It didn't hurt?
I just rubbed my butt to be funny.
Well, Hector said, and I don't know how he saw this, but he claims that you had a very large bruise, and I think
it's
inappropriate for him to have even noticed.
No, I told him that I had a bruise, but it didn't hurt. No, actually, the fall that Hector, I think, was probably referring to was one day on set, I was doing a scene and I had to run into a doorway and I just fell flat on my face and really badly skinned my knee, which was unfortunate because the costume showed my knee, so I had to have makeup put on, this wound every single day, and it took a while to heal. And I actually still have a scar, but it always reminds me of the fun that The Princess Diaries was, which is very weird to equate a scar with fun, but whatever.
You did so many funny things that, trying to sit a certain way in the chair and then you wind up...
Did you like that? That was my idea.
Yeah, and it just seems like you're not afraid to just try stuff, physical stuff, which a lot of young actresses, I think, are a little more reserved, and it just seemed like you were just going for the moment.
Well, thank you. I think, once again, that is a testament to how great Garry is, because I trusted him so completely, and I would go to him after I did something and said, was it too much? And he said no, or if he said yes, he'd say, but if you don't feel comfortable, we'll go back and we'll do it again and make sure that you're happy. So we just shot a whole lot of stuff, and Garry used the best of it, and it was just fun because we had so much. I mean, if you think it's fun watching this film, you have to understand how much fun we had making it. I mean, there was 1,000 laughs a day, and Garry just made it. It was like summer camp, really. And Garry was like the ultimate camp counselor. It was really, really fun, and it's certainly an experience that I'm going to treasure for the rest of my life.
There are 3 women associated with this film that are all involved with music: Whitney Houston, Mandy Moore, and
Julie Andrews.
Could you talk a little bit about each of them, and if you had the opportunity to interface, well, obviously those 2, but can you talk a little bit about those 3 of them?
Certainly. Well, first of all 3 are great ladies, really wonderful and such strong women. And I remember Whitney came by, or I should say Miss Houston, came by on Garry's birthday and came out with a cake singing happy birthday. And so I started, singing along, having fun, and then I thought to myself, wait a minute, Whitney Houston is standing to my left singing, I should shut up and listen. And so I did, and I started mouthing along the words, and actually it was really funny because I think everybody got the same idea. So really, we have a tape of it, and it's just Whitney Houston singing and everybody else just sort of mouthing along but looking at her with complete awe. And she's such a gorgeous voice and it's a tremendous talent. And Julie is great because every once in a while she would hum on set, and because she doesn't really sing so much anymore, but she would hum or sing a few notes and everybody would just stop and stare and just get tears in their eyes because she's got such a beautiful voice. And Mandy, I actually just saw perform live for the first time a few nights ago. She was doing a concert for 17 Magazine, and she performed 3 songs off of her new album, which I think is coming out Tuesday, June 19th. And she was amazing. And I knew Mandy was really good because I had her first album, but I was not prepared by how really talented she is. And it's really shown very well on this album. And so I'm so excited for it to go out in stores. And they were all wonderful. It was a very musically oriented set because Heather sings too. So, and she and I would just go off on days and sing Judy Garland standards, and everybody would look at us funny.
Did you ever have those moments where it would just suddenly hit you, oh my God, that's Mary Poppins?
Well, yeah, of course. How can it not? I was so nervous before I met Julie. I met her at the first read through, and I was shaking like a leaf. And then she came, and everybody, the hush went over the crowd, and everybody went, "Oh, Julie Andrews is here! Julie Andrews is in the building!" And I stood up and I walked over to her, and I was completely nervous, and I held up my hands, and that was shaking too. And I said, "Miss Andrews, I'm Annie, and it's really nice to meet you." And I started to blabber on incoherently, but Julie just pulled me into this giant bear hug and gave me a kiss on the cheek and said, "It's so nice to meet you. We're just going to have so much fun doing this." And I couldn't believe it because here she was. It was Julie Andrews, and she's been my hero since I was 3 years old, telling me that she was looking forward to working with me. And I just about died right there. And it was. The amazing thing about Julie is that in addition to being Grande Dame Julie Andrews, she is Jules. And we got to be really close during filming. But then every once in a while I would look at her and just say, "How are you this nice and this tremendous person at the same time?" And I think it's a testament to what a real, genuine, warm person she is that she can be Jules and Julie Andrews at the same time.
Now, were you signed on before she came aboard?
I think I was there about 2 days before she was, but I don't consider myself signed on. I consider myself a very lucky girl. So I got the call that I was going to really get the privilege of playing Mia. And they said Julie Andrews is in final negotiations. And then 2 days later, when I got back in LA, they said, she's set. And I said, oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Okay, let's talk about your hair and eyebrows.
Well, technically they weren't mine. It was a wig.
Of course not, but how did we create that illusion?
Well, we had a number of screen tests where we just we were experimenting with looks, and the eyebrows were sort of, everybody agreed that the eyebrows were a great idea, but the hair was a force to be reckoned with because it was a wig, and at first the wig had bangs as well. And if anybody ever finds a picture of the first look we had, I'm so scared because actually Garry saw the test because we were testing clothes and looks as well. And he goes, this isn't the Lion King. It's a princess movie. And so they cut the bangs off, and we just decided that it was very, very, very frizzy. And I don't like to think of it as Mia's ugly phase. I think it's her awkward phase, which I can certainly relate to because I had one that lasted for my entire life. No, mine lasted for about 7 years, and I'm so terrified that someone's going to find a picture of me from 7th grade. And the secret will be out that, yes, Annie Hathaway did have an awkward phase and a very, 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 very bad one. And the wig was hot and sticky, and the eyebrows, the best part about the eyebrows was taking them off because I couldn't touch my eyebrows for the entire day, and so I was always afraid that they would fall off. And so at the end, when you just get to scrub them off, it was a good feeling.
So was it fun to revisit that then, the awkward phase? Or did it just
You know what? No, it was good. It was really good because I sort of had a mock grow up because my awkward phase ended while I was working on a TV series, and so I felt like I was forced to be more mature than I was ready to be, which was nobody's fault except my own because I was putting a lot of added pressure on myself. And so I was allowed to revisit that time in my life in the Princess Diaries, and Garry created an environment such that I was allowed to be a kid, and I was allowed to be vulnerable, and I was allowed to have days when I wasn't, completely happy. And so I got to really grow up with Mia in the movie, and I learned so much from her, which is one reason why I'm so excited that this film's coming out, because I figure if I, as the actress who played her, could learn something from her, think about what everyone else can too. I think the great part about the film is that it does have a lot of really important messages in it, but it doesn't address them in any sort of preachy or didactic way. I think it really is very straightforward and something that everybody can relate to, and it's not sappy and it's not cheesy or corny. It's a really good movie, and I'm very proud of it.
What's the biggest lesson you learned from Mia?
For Mia, that in life, the most important thing is to not figure out what the world can do for you, but what you can do for the world. And while I'm never going to be a princess, certainly as an actress, if I achieve any sort of level of celebrity, which I'm not necessarily hoping I do, but if it does happen, the important thing is to not focus on going to premieres and how many pairs of shoes you have and what designers want to give you which hot dress. It's about figuring out how to help people and how to make a difference in the world, which is why I think Julie is so incredible, because she's had such a tremendous career. She's so tremendously talented, but she's a humanitarian, she's a philanthropist, and she writes children's books. So she promotes literacy, which is so important. And I hope one day I can be half the person she is, because I'd be a pretty good person then.
What are you studying at school?
I'm an English major, and I haven't decided yet, but I believe I'm going to also do a correlate in women's studies. So that'll be fun.
Aside from acting, how do you want to make a
Well,
difference in the world?
I'd love to promote education, because I feel that, especially in America, it's an undervalued resource and really needs to be addressed. And I mean, it sounds kind of cliched, but school is incredible. School is cool. At least I think so. And also, I want to... America is such a funny country, because people think of America and people think of the phrase American as apple pie. But when you think about it, America could never be anything as plain or as simple as apple pie. It's something completely more diverse. And I think we need to realize that American identity is not something that can be defined. It's full of diversity, and we need to realize that American culture cannot be attributed to one ethnicity or one race. It is a combination of many, and so that's something that I would really like to promote the idea of, and really, so there can really be no, I don't know how to say this, American identity cannot be assigned to just one type of people, I think.
So if Hollywood does come calling, where does school fit into that? How does the
Well, making the decision to leave school, or I should say defer going to school for a semester to do Princess Diaries was very hard, because I do believe so strongly in education, but I also realize that I really want to have a career right now too, but I don't want to do things simply to work. I only want to do projects that I believe in, and I so sincerely believed in the Princess Diaries that, and I've talked to my parents about it, and we've decided that I'm not going to do work simply to work. If I do something, it will be something I believe in, and if it means holding off school for a semester, then that's what it means, but I will finish school, and if it takes me 6 years to graduate, then that would be a sacrifice that I would have to make, but I can't stress enough the importance and how much I really do enjoy going to school, and how much I really love learning. And so if I'm not working, I don't see going to school as any sort of failure. I look at it as expanding a different part of myself.
Do you have incredible parents?
I have extraordinary parents. Yes, I do. They're wonderful.
Really, because you seem extraordinary yourself.
Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you so much. My parents, throughout my entire life, have given me the gift of freedom and the gift of trust, because, well, granted, I wasn't a wild child growing up. I've been pretty responsible my whole life, but if I say I will do something, my parents trust that I will do it, or if I say that I won't do something, my parents also trust that I won't do it. And by giving me the gift of their trust, I always know that even if I mess up in a way, or I don't do something perfectly, they'll still love me, because I think our relationship is built on love and respect and trust. And it's wonderful, because I had that in my childhood growing up, and now I've sort of entered adulthood. Granted, it's young adulthood, but I'm exploring a new facet to our relationship, and it's really fun. It's ever evolving, but it's wonderful, and it's wonderful because it is flawed. And I think that's the great part about having parents, is because, and especially with my parents, because it hasn't been completely perfect, but the good moments have definitely outweighed the bad, And I'd have to say the great moments have definitely outweighed the good moments. So,
How is it that you got into acting?
well, my mother was an actress, and she actually, when I was about 8 years old, was cast in the national tour of Les Miserables, and at the end of it, she went. Excuse me for a second. Dry mouth there. And at the end of 6 months on the tour, she decided that she wasn't being a mom. She wasn't paying enough attention to my brothers and I, so she decided to hold off her career to be a mother, to make sure that anything my brothers and I needed, we always had someone to come home to at the end of school. And
Can you hold that thought?
yeah. Okay, why don't we start over, because I had the water and
Yeah.
Okay, so let's make this sound like I didn't just say it. My mother was cast in the national tour of Les Mis when I was about 8 years old, and I really got to see the way things worked backstage, and so I sort of was bitten by the bug then. And my mom has since put her career on hold. Actually, though, what we're looking at right now is that I'm hoping that she can help produce certain projects that I'm in. And ultimately, my goal is to establish a production company in which I can employ both my parents as writer-producers, because I know that's what they really want to do. And that would just be incredible, and I'd love it. And but getting back to when I was 8, and I told my parents that I thought I wanted to be an actor. And they said, well, that's great. You're 8 years old. You're going to be a child first. You're going to have a childhood. So they let me take acting classes. And I just loved it, and I stuck with it. And when it was really only about a year and a half ago that I decided, though, that this is what I wanted to do for my career. And something I'm so grateful for is that I've had a full and complete life up to this point that took place outside of this business, that I know I will always have, that anything that happens to me from this point on in terms of my career cannot change that. And so I'm very grateful to have had the childhood that I've had. And I say that oh, I thought you were my mom. Sorry, hi Jill. Sorry, anyway.
And what was your first acting job?
My first, do you want school play or professional acting job?
Professional. And
Okay.
in school, and if it
Well-
was like you played a carrot, it was
Mhm.
funny.
Oh, okay. I played a dancing bear in my first grade play, and I got a monologue in it. I got to talk about the safety in forests, and how important it was to always put out fires when you were done with them. And I must tell you, I committed to that bear role. I hibernated for months on end, but. I was very into the method when I was 5. And my first professional acting job was at the Paper Mill Playhouse. It was in their main stage production of Gigi, and I played a little Parisian schoolgirl who got to catch a ball, and it was so exciting. And then my first professional screen job was I got a national commercial for Better Homes and Gardens, and then from there, for the next few years, I sort of only auditioned for commercials and voiceovers, and then I thought, okay, well, this isn't really acting, or for me, I didn't feel like it wasn't that fulfilling for me. So I thought, let's try a pilot season. What's the worst that can happen? I'll just be where I am right now. So I auditioned for things out of New York. I auditioned for about 4 or 5 pilots, and I happened to get one. And believe me, if I was an actor listening to this, I would hate me too. So then the series was picked up, and I did that for about a year. And then from there, I got an independent film called The Other Side of Heaven. And on my way to New Zealand, I auditioned for The Princess Diaries, found out I got that in New Zealand, and came back, did that, and then went to school. So that's pretty much my career up to this point.
So why acting? What drew you to this profession?
The self-discovery that comes from doing character development. And I have learned so much from observing people, and to have the ability to say, I've created this character, and to have the ability to say, I know this person so well, what can I learn from them? I just love it. And also, to a certain degree, it's about entertaining other people and making other people happy, which has been the most rewarding part of seeing The Princess Diaries, was having people, particularly little girls, and I see so much of myself in them, come up to me at the end and say, this is the best film I've ever seen. And exactly, it makes your heart stop, and you want to say, this is why I do this. I do this to put a smile on people's faces, and to be able to say, wow, I've done that. It's really an incredible feeling. So that's probably why I do it.
You said that all actually ask a question. But it's funny that you say that because I thought this might be for little girls the way Grease was for me.
Mhm.
You know, it just meant so much to me throughout my entire life.
Yeah.
So, me too.
Oh, me too, but don't believe me.
But yeah, so to be able to do that, it's a nice thing.
You're gonna ask a question?
I'm gonna ask.
But I think the amazing thing about Princess
How much
Diaries.
did Grease mean to me?
I think the amazing thing about Princess Diaries is that while a lot of young people are going to see it, it honestly is a film for everyone. And people, the fact that it's a family film and the fact that it's G-rated, people I think are starting to get people have the potential to be put off by that. But I don't think they should be at all because it's a G film that's hip, that is fun. You don't notice that nobody's swearing or killing each other. And it's just really, it is a film for everyone in the sense that people can relate to all the characters in it. There's something in it for everyone. And they see, I think, a lot of themselves and a lot of their friends in the various characters, and then a lot of their parents and a lot of their grandparents. And grandparents relate to it because they relate to, and everybody has, there's something relatable to everyone in it. And I think that's incredible that we were able to do that.
In this movie, in this storyline, she wakes up one day and finds out she's a princess.
Mhm.
What would you like to wake up one day and find out that you are?
I would like to wake up one day and find out that I am in a world where hate crimes do not happen. That would be incredible to live in a world like that. I think so. Yeah.
On a superficial level, though, what about when you got the series and you got to go to events and little award shows and stuff like that? There's an element of feeling like a princess when people are dressing you up and sending you down the red carpet.
Oh, of course. But I think the thing that struck me about that I never knew was how little glamour there is in the entertainment industry, because everything is getting to this place at this particular time and having to smile even if you don't want to. And there's nothing glamorous about that because people think of glamour and they think of the fun that comes with going to your senior prom and having your hair done like that. But it's not about the award shows and it's not about designers or any of that. It really isn't. It's about doing good work. And frankly, if you can do that and say at the end of the day that, wow, I did work that I'm really proud of, all of the award shows and the events really shouldn't make any difference whatsoever. That shouldn't be why you do this, and certainly not why I'm doing it.
But on a superficial level, I mean, you did in this movie, at the end of the film, you did have your hair done. You were in the gorgeous dress. I mean, was it a little like senior prom?
Of course it was, except I wore a much better dress in this movie. But I think the amazing thing is that that's just fun because you were able to see that Mia fits the physical role of the princess, and you're just happy for her because she's made that physical transformation. But the more important transformation is the one she makes right before that scene, where I think the script said Mia looks like a drowned rat, and I fit the description quite well. And that's the moment where you realize for the first time that Mia can do this, that she has the inner strength, and it doesn't matter what she looks like. She could be wearing a completely soaked sweatshirt and have her hair hanging in her face, but her strength of character is what really matters. And that's why I'm really proud of this film, because I think it really addresses that issue.
But for you personally,
we need to break. We really need to break. We got somebody waiting outside.
Well, I mean, just for you personally, I mean, to get to dress up, I mean, you were the star of the scene. I mean, it's glowing.
I'm not going to lie, it was fun.
Oh,
great.
Thank you.
How do you like to celebrate 4th
Two more
of July
rotations.
or Independence Day?
I'm going to be in Oregon, actually. So I'm just looking forward to relaxing and wearing lots of sunscreen.
Thanks.
All right, have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
And we're back from Anne Hathaway. Before we get to you, Matt, I'm just going to add a little quick postscript regarding Anne Hathaway.
Please do.
Last time I interviewed her was back in 2014 for this movie called Song 1. A lot of people think it's a little bit of like that movie Once, and it has a little bit of those Once overtones. It was directed and written by Kate Barker Foyland. I really enjoyed that movie, but little thing about that is by the time of 2014, it's 15, 16 years after Princess Diaries, and even to that day, she was really well just really composed, really thoughtful, very insightful. I asked her actually a question there about, since at the time she was living in LA, and I asked her about the difference between living in Los Angeles and living in New York. And at the time she was in Angelino, and she was saying, yeah, there's so many things you can do. There's hiking, there's skiing, and we actually have our own little extended family here in LA. So not much of a big change. But I was thinking, at that time, yeah, Anne Hathaway, forever Angelino. But lately, if you look at where she's living, she and her husband and their child, they've set up stakes now. I'm assuming they're basically now, as of this date, New Yorkers, and it would make sense with her love for theater and the arts and growing up there. So
most people who have lived in both New York and any place else tend to favor New York. People who live in New York just love New York.
Yeah, they really have a passion.
And they sort of develop this snobbery, like they're kind of better than everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But having been to New York a lot, I kind of get it.
Yeah.
New York is pretty great.
New York is definitely great.
All right, so I've got some postscripts. She said that when she was 8 years old, her mother was in the national tour of Les Miserables. What she didn't mention, because in 2001 there was no reason to bring it up, was that the role her mom played was Fantine. And that's the same role that Anne wound up playing in the movie version. So they were both Fantine, which is kind of cool until you look too closely at it and realize that it means that they were both knocked up by the same man, and then it becomes creepy. It was impressive, though, how she started that story over again after she realized we hadn't gotten good sound. I got to say, that was very savvy of her to realize our technical needs like that. She talked about her love of education and the importance of that. And in fact, she has put her money where her mouth is. Following this junket, she spent several semesters studying as an English major and political science minor at Vassar. And then she transferred to New York University's Gallatin School of Individualized Study. But by this point, her career took off and she never did finish her degree. But you certainly can't say that she isn't college educated. She spent a lot of years in college. She also, as we were saying before the interview, she's never lost that civic mindedness that you just heard from her as a teenager. Just to name a few of her causes, as listed on her Wikipedia page, Hathaway has served as a long-term advocate for the Nike Foundation to raise awareness against child marriage. In July 2006, she spent a week in Nicaragua to help vaccinate children against hepatitis A. In 2010, she teamed up with World Bank in a 2-year development program, The Girl Effect, whose mission focuses on helping empower girls in developing and developed nations where 1/3 of young women are not employed and not in school. In 2016, she was appointed UN Women Goodwill Ambassador based on her advocacy for gender equality. She played a large role in the formation of the Time's Up initiative. She's spoken out against the issues of bullying of gay students, discrimination towards transgender children, and white supremacy. These are just a few. The list goes on and on. She's really a pretty remarkable woman, and I hope that you guys enjoyed hearing the spark of that way back in 2001 when she was only 17 years old.
Yeah, she's always been a great interview.
All right, cool. So, Greg, unless you've got anything else, are we ready for Dame Julie Andrews?
We are ready for Dame Julie Andrews.
Awesome. Well, let me start this off. 1 year prior to this interview, in the year 2000, Julie Andrews was made a dame by Queen Elizabeth II for services to the performing arts. And this is a huge honor to receive. And because it was still so fresh, we asked her quite a bit about this. It's very sad to go into this, but in 1997, which was only 4 years prior to this interview, Andrews underwent throat surgery to remove non-cancerous nodules on her vocal cords, and when she woke up, her singing voice was gone. To this day, over 20 years later, she still has a very limited range, and she can no longer hold notes. It was a botched surgery. They hadn't even warned her that this might happen. It was just out of nowhere, and it's a devastating blow for such an iconic singer, and for us because we don't get to hear her sing anymore. But she can still talk, so she's been able to take roles like this one and providing the voice of Gru's mom in the Despicable Me series. And it actually led to her authoring and co-authoring dozens of children's books, because that doesn't require her voice. And that includes the series' Dumpy the Dump Truck and The Very Fairy Princess.
Some of which she wrote with her daughter, Emma Walton Hamilton.
That is right. So right at the beginning of the interview, she says that she's got 2 movies coming out. This one and another where she plays a very small part. The other movie actually came out the following year. It was P.J. Hogan's Unconditional Love, starring Kathy Bates and Rupert Everett. Andrews has a small cameo in it, along with Barry Manilow.
And you were asking all those questions, Matt. Congrats on that.
I did ask her a lot of questions. Well, it was, I mean, you're sitting at a table with Julie Andrews. You're not going to just sit there and twiddle your thumbs. You want to connect.
But you covered the unconditional love stuff, so credit to you for that.
Okay. At one point, she is asked to give the Reader's Digest version of her friendship with Carol Burnett. The question is sort of hard to hear, so keep that in mind when she starts answering it, that Carol Burnett is the person that she's talking about. That's all I have for pre-stuff. I mean, obviously, she's iconic. She's a legend.
Right.
Just for Mary Poppins and The Sound of Music alone. If she had never done anything else, she would be a legend.
Well, another reason to listen to this interview is towards the end of the interview, there's a lot of stuff that she talks about. One of her more criminally underrated films was the 1981 collaboration with Blake Edwards, lifelong partner Blake Edwards in S.O.B.
Husband.
Yeah. So you're going to get...
That's a very funny movie where she went topless, going against type, but she played an actress who you would never expect to. So it was art imitating life, because that was exactly who she was as well.
Yeah, and so this interview doesn't have... It goes over a lot of her iconic stuff, but so there's some really good nuggets that you're going to get, especially for me as a cinephile. Just hearing her insight on S.O.B. and how much that meant to her personally was really cool. That's something that you can teaser-wise look out for in this interview with Julie Andrews, which is happening in 3, 2, 1.
7.
Here we go.
Would you like some?
No, I'm good, thanks. I'm fine. I'm going to have lunch in a bit, I think.
You'll go right into Sugar Shock. I've had a little.
I do, unfortunately, yes. So, am I the last one on the list?
You are.
I am? Okay.
How fun was this for
Do this.
you?
Great fun. Great fun. It was, well, we listened with Garry Marshall at the helm. You know it has to be great fun. He's adorable.
We haven't seen you on the screen in a while, so.
I guess you haven't. You know, I've been around and I've been on the screen, but it just hasn't been this huge profile, I guess. You know, I have another film coming out later this year that I did a small piece in, and it's going to be very funny, I think, I hope.
Well, this is hysterical. I mean, we were really, really laughing hard.
When did you see it?
I saw it last night.
Last night? You saw it Friday? Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
It's great fun, and you're wonderful in it. And
I had such a great time. You know, who couldn't enjoy wearing all those clothes and $1 million tiaras and posing around? I mean, it was great.
Well, tell us about. I mean, everybody's been saying what a fun set it was. How it was just like camp every day. It was. Is that just you?
No, it stems from the head. It stems from Garry. I tell you, he's apart from being one of the funniest men in the world and the sweetest, his main mission in life, it seems, is to make everybody happy, and he does it splendidly. He doesn't let a soul go untended or unnoticed. And we had parades and parties and picnics and spoilings, you know, and company just adored him.
And you got to, because I guess you started out your career as in, what's the name of
Poppins.
Pygmalion.
Oh, Pygmalion, I see, yeah.
So, My Fair Lady, thank you. And this time you get to train someone.
I get to play Henry Higgins' part this time, yes, instead of Eliza.
Do you think you could do that in real life, teach someone how to be a lady?
How to be a lady? I doubt it, since I am not exactly one myself, as a rule.
Dame, though.
Yes. Where are you from?
From Berkshire.
Are you? Whereabouts?
From Wokingham, near Reading.
Really?
Yeah.
Good Lord. A fellow Brit.
Well, you have had very good luck playing these roles where you're mentoring.
I've just had very good luck, period. I mean, fancy, who's luckier than I'd be handed those roles? Would you mind doing The Sound of Music? Would you like to do Mary Poppins? I mean, you know.
People don't just hand out roles.
Well, in my case, I happen to be in the right place at the right time, and I just think that's the luckiest you can get, you know. And this one, and Victoria, and I've been very blessed.
When you come to a project, obviously you bring a great presence, and it must be apparent among your castmates. A lot of people are like, well, it's wonderful, but it's like, oh my God, it's really Andy.
That's only because I've been around so long, you know.
But how do you go about putting everybody at ease? I mean, do you come consciously saying, I have to
Sometimes it depends what kind of. I mean, within 5 minutes, we'd all bonded wonderfully because they didn't put on airs, and I tried not to, and we all loved each other.
Well, there's that moment in the film where you come down the staircase and everybody in the room sort of, oh, she's in the room. And you must sort of notice that.
Sometimes.
Into a restaurant sometimes, is it annoying or is it cool?
It's just the way it is. It's I don't know what to say about it. It's mostly very pleasant because people are darling about it. I mean, people aren't mean-spirited. They are welcoming. And usually people say, God, I loved you in such and such, or I've been a fan, or thank you for the years of pleasure. And that's tremendously gratifying.
Or do they quote lines that you've heard?
Yeah, they do. A lot of Clouseauisms come in there too, which aren't my films, but...
Do they sing to you?
Sometimes, yeah. I loved it when you know. But all sorts of funny things happen, and it's wonderful.
We talked to Garry about casting this film, and he said that you were attached prior to him coming onto it.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Did you know that? I thought, maybe you did. I thought he had me in mind for it. I don't know why. That's very disappointing. I'd hoped that he'd picked me personally.
Well, the thing is, he didn't know you. He says because Penny knows everyone and he knows no one. But as interested as he was in meeting you, he really wanted to meet Blake.
I knew he'd say something like that. He's adorable, and he did, and they got on like a house on fire because they're from the same school, No, the first I actually heard of it, whatever anybody else was fumbling about, and I looked back at my wonderful personal manager there. All I know is that I was asked whether I would like to meet Garry, and I just fell in love with him right away, as anybody would.
What were some of the things that he let you bring to your role?
The first time we met, he just sat and we talked and talked and talked and talked, and he said, what do you like to do? What are your hobbies? He said, I want to find things for the Queen that's such and such and such and such. And then he said, and I think the fact that there are roses in the film and that I love my garden, it's because I really do. And I said, well, I love to plant my roses, and wouldn't the Queen have and in fact, it's cut out of the movie, but in fact the Queen has a Clarice rose, and she bestows the Order of the Rose on the two guys that's all from talk with Garry. And then he'd say things like, and what do you think about such and such? And he asked a lot of protocol questions that I might know because I'm British and watch royalty a lot. So we had a wonderful conversation.
That's what I was going to ask, is that you have met the Queen, so is there any mannerisms that you...
Well, I think that wave comes pretty close, yes. And the rest is just pure fun. She's not really, she's just a wacky lady I think the thing that I liked about the character is that she cares very, very much about her country, as I believe our English Queen does,
Didn't you recently receive some sort of title?
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little about that and what that was?
I was given the honor of being made a dame of the British Empire, which is a huge honor, and it's really a tremendously personal, warm glow that you've been honored by your country. That's really what it means. And it's a particularly British honor, and I'm thrilled.
Yeah, but you've been hanging around here for so long. Aren't you ours now?
Well, that's what I thought, and that's why it was such a surprise when they offered it and said, would I like to accept it? Because they have to get your permission, I guess. And no, I was really thrilled.
And do you get down on your knees?
No, ladies don't. I tell you, that's what's interesting. Men do, except for members of the church men do because they are warlike. Women are women of peace, and they do not kneel and accept the sword. And neither do the church members, neither does a preacher or a priest or an archbishop, because he's a man of peace. So the sword is not involved. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, so how is it bestowed?
It's bestowed by the Queen, you do curtsy, and you get 2 wonderful medals pinned on your chest.
Has it changed
And you chat a bit.
Has it changed your life in any way? Do you feel different, or do you get better tables at restaurants?
No, I said it's such a personal thing. I mostly I don't use the title. I mean, it's lovely to know that it was bestowed. I don't think anybody flaunts it. You just gratefully accept it, and you just feel real special.
Is it on your checkbook or anything?
No. Are you kidding? No.
You should at least get parking.
Well, who knows? I don't know, but I know that I am thrilled. And it was one of the nicest days of my life. It was one of those days in London where it looked like a watercolor painting. The sun was out. The sun shone all day. It was clear and fresh and cool and radiant. And everything about the day went right. It was great.
Does it make you think about when you were a little girl and things that you dreamed of and never even dreamed of?
I used to say to my mother when we drove down the Mall and looked at Buckingham Palace at the end, we would look to see if the flag was flying, which meant that she was home, the royal flag. And we would say, oh, she's in today, that's nice. And it sort of made you feel good. And I would say, I wonder if I will ever get to go and have tea with her. And my mother said, well, if you behave yourself, you might one day, you know.
What's Buckingham Palace like? Was it
Awesome. What's awesome is the beauty of some of the paintings, because they're all other royals. I mean, there's Queen Victoria at another investiture, and there's, you know, somebody else, and you realize that those are relatives, you know, part of the family business.
Did she have all of her little dogs yapping around?
No, it's a huge event. I mean, they give like 3 investitures a year. It's the one time when the palace itself, when the public are invited in, and other than that, apart from the galleries where the public can see the paintings and stuff, it's pretty private, you know.
Did you eat cucumber sandwiches? I'm curious.
No, actually, it was a morning investiture, and I took the family to lunch afterwards, so it was nice. It was cool.
You know, you sound great. You know, your voice sounds great.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, are you thinking of singing again, or is that?
I am. You bet I am. I think about it all the time. I'm hoping, let me put it this way, I'm still optimistic, and I haven't given up looking for any avenue that might help me regain. My speaking voice has come back enormously, because I was just croaking before. And you can hear I'm a little tired because I did 60 interviews yesterday, but 60 interviews is a lot, and I held up. And so I'm optimistic that if that's come back, then the rest will.
Are you doing exercises?
Yep, I do vocalize, and it's pretty daunting at the moment because it's the middle register that's gone. I can't go through without it just falling apart on me. So I'm very good at singing something like Old Man River.
Was it devastating, and how long did it take you to say, okay, well, I'm going to fight through this?
Right away. I mean, I haven't given up hope from day one. And yes, it was devastating.
When you're dreaming about it again, what are you hoping for?
Nothing spectacular. I'd like, at my age, I don't think I'll be probably doing My Fair Lady again, but I'd like to have good use of it because it gave me so much pleasure.
Is there a particular song, though, that you think,
maybe
I'd love to sing this again?
No, but the particular image that I have is that singing with an orchestra is maybe the biggest turn on, next to a few obvious ones, that I can think of. And it is magical, and I would miss that very much. Very much.
Out of all the roles that you've played, what is your absolute favorite?
Can't say, because they've all been different, and you love them for different reasons. One because of the director, one because of the role, one because of the location, one because of the leading man or whatever. And they've all been an adventure.
But they didn't brief you. You're supposed to say this one.
The one I'm doing right now is what most people tactfully answer.
When we get, you were saying how singing gives you so much. Can you put into words what it gives you?
My singing, I mean, it's not a good answer, but my singing teacher used to describe singing with an orchestra like being carried along in the most comfortable armchair. And what it does is, with that sound behind you, you have to become better than you actually know you are. You try to transcend and ascend. And she's absolutely right. That is the feeling. You are simply pushed along by waves of glorious sound as a rule. And it's magical.
You've got these movies that children cherish and hold in their hearts. And this may become another one of them.
I hope so. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yeah. What would you hope that kids would get from this movie?
perhaps a small identification, perhaps a small grain of hope. Most of all, that the teenage years will lead to self-discovery of that inner person, not necessarily the fact that you're a princess, but whether you're a princess or a pauper, that there is something special inside of you, and that maybe they could find it too.
Can we get the Reader's Digest version of your relationship with Carol Burnett?
Only the Reader's Digest? Okay.
Unless we could decide to camp out here, which
Oh,
would be
yeah.
great. I would love that.
Well, she's one of my best girl chums. She's godmother to one of my daughters. We've known each other since we were in our, I guess, early 30s or late 20s. She's the dearest lady, funniest lady. We bonded. It was like two girls suddenly discover that they live on the same block, and wow, you two. And every time we get together, either professionally or privately, it's like, what are you doing these days? And we figure that, the first show we did together, it was like, who's your boyfriend, who are you dating? And then 10 years later, it was like, you're married now? Oh, and the kids and so on. And then the next one was 10 years later, and it was like, I have to run because I got a PTA meeting and so on. We figured that the last few will be probably in the basement of the YWCA, and we'll be saying, I'm sorry, I'm in a wheelchair, but...
Mathau and Lemon were very lucky.
Yeah, they had the same relationship.
Mathau's career,
Yeah.
that they had this series of films, Grumpy Old Men.
Yeah.
There would be sort of...
Grumpy Old Ladies?
Yeah.
I'd love that. That would be great. Anything that she wants to do is fine with me. There's talk of a Broadway show, too, together, which would be great fun.
It'd be neat to see it live.
What can you tell us about that?
Nothing, because it's not even written. It's an idea that my wonderful husband had, and it's a terrific idea. And if I get lucky enough, it might come to pass, but I don't want to jinx it.
Let us know if we can help.
Thank you. Again.
Well, I kind of sleep with the guy, so it's possible that we might,
You have the inside track. You have the inside track.
I have the inside track, yeah.
How did it feel to do live television?
Hugely scary.
Scary nowadays.
Oh, it was a nightmare. It was the scariest thing I've done in eons. And I tell you, I wouldn't want to do it again, I don't think. Really? No, I mean, not live. Because it barely works, because even though you're doing it live, the audience expects the same quality as tape or film. They think it's going to be just as perfect, and it couldn't be, because you are doing it once, hopefully perfectly, with 8 cameras dancing in front of you and 8 technicians, and then they've got technicians pulling cords, and you're all doing your ballet. And it's nothing like film, and it's nothing like theater. And but everybody says, oh, it's going to be terrific. It's going to be just like seeing a movie or a taped show, and it isn't.
But you got to be with Christopher Plummer.
Heaven, just heaven.
Did it reinvigorate you and the acting from the acting?
You know what invigorated me was having survived it and gotten through it and done it and remembered it. And because it was, I kept coming up to it and coming up to it. I said I wasn't going to do it like 3 times and kept being sort of brought back into it. And now it's past me. I'm very pleased I did it.
As a young girl growing up in the UK, did you ever imagine that the body of work that you would produce would be so generational?
No, I never. I mean, I thought that, certainly growing up, I thought that whatever I did, which was in those days just a sort of, I had a freakish child voice, a soprano voice of huge range, and I could sing any kind of an aria with tremendous coloratura, acrobatics and so on. But I thought it was just a flash in the pan. It was a one-time spark, and who knew that it would last? I didn't.
Did you know then that you were destined for something special?
No.
Do you have any inkling?
The only thing I knew, and I don't know where it came from or why it happened, was that I knew that I wanted to be, a trite word, I wanted to be useful, I wanted to be good, whatever I did, whether it was being a gardener or a governess or whatever, I hoped that I would do it really well and be really special to people. That's all I felt.
Did you have the opportunity to meet Whitney Houston at all?
Yes,
Can you talk about
she produced our film. She came down on the set a couple of times, more than a couple, and she obviously kept in very close touch with all that was going on. And she had lady that produces with her, called Deborah Chase, who was there constantly every day. She came and she visited Garry on his birthday, and she and I croaked and she sang happy birthday to him. She's very nice. She brought her kids.
And you were impressed with her? I mean,
she's beautiful.
She's such a diva, in the best sense.
Yeah.
Now it's a good word.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah, it used to be terrible, didn't it?
It's a good word.
It used to mean pulling rank and that kind of thing. I think that movie helped a little bit.
Sound of Music. I read an article in New Yorker not long ago. Anthony Lane wrote about the Sing Along with Sound of Music, which has become a huge phenomenon.
It's sent it up into cult status, you know.
Did you ever imagine a million years?
No.
Among the gay community, they dress up and they come out and everyone sings and dances. I think you're going to do it at the Hollywood Bowl.
They are in about 2 weeks' time, I think, yes.
Did you ever? You never thought it would be. Have you ever
Who
attended
could?
one of these?
Who knew that sort of thing would be in, you know?
Have you ever attended one of these?
No, I haven't dared to. I'd like to be a fly on the wall, though.
Do you have a favorite song from Sound of Music?
From Sound of Music? Probably, it changes from time to time, but probably my favorite things, and actually my favorite song from the whole piece is Edelweiss. Yeah, it's such a classic. Simplest little phrase with a perfectly wonderful lyric. And it just sits in the palm of your hand.
It's the kind of song that, this sounds corny, but when I sing it to myself, it makes me cry.
Me too.
So are we safe in when we write our pieces saying Julie Andrews is back in movies with a vengeance?
I don't know if you could say back in movies, because, well, yeah, if you want to, you certainly may. I'd be thrilled. But, you know, I made a movie. I was on Broadway for a little while, and certainly for 2 years, 3 of which, I mean, it took up 3 years at least. I made a film in England, which wasn't a hit, but it was a movie. I then came and did the P.J. Hogan one that's coming out. I did this one, and I did Golden Pond. So I don't know if you can say backward. And then I've been writing, so it's been a very busy, prolific time for me.
We haven't talked about the P.J. Hogan film yet. Can you tell us about that? Who you play?
I just play me. I play myself, and it's a cameo role. And he came to see me when I was doing the film in England, the other one that I just mentioned. And he happened to be in the same hotel, and he asked if he could come and have tea. And we liked each other very much. And he said, I want you to play yourself. And he told me the story of the movie, which is called Unconditional Love. And it is such a funny idea and such a good idea. And I said, whenever you're ready, count me in. And he got ready and counted me in.
No, are you playing yourself as you really are? Because so often when celebrities cameo as themselves, they're like, you know, caricatures of themselves.
I think it's a little, I mean, it was tongue-in-cheek, that's for sure. I played my image more than I played me, you know.
In what way?
Oh, grander than grand and holier than thou and sweeter than sweet and all of that.
Part of that movie is made in the little village where my parents live.
No, really?
Tiny village.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, gorgeous. I wanted to ask your autobiography. Are you writing?
Yes, I'm going to start it hopefully this summer when I get some time away. I've asked to take the whole summer off and begin it. I don't know if I'll hand it over to somebody later. I really don't know. But right now I want to get it down, you know. But just the first part of my life, not all of it.
What's going to be the most challenging part of doing it?
Writing it well. Doing it so that people are really interested, you know. It's one thing to get an idea for a little story out there, but when it's about you, you want to do it really well. And to find a style, I mean, I know what I'd like to convey, and what I'd like to do is give people a sense of the history of that time, because it was the dying days of vaudeville and music hall, and it hasn't been written about that much, and I'd love to try to capture it and let people see how it really was.
Are there areas you have to step lightly around because people are still alive?
Actually, those days, there aren't that many, and I don't think I'm going to have to tread too lightly.
In your own words, since you are sleeping with one of the hottest producers in Hollywood right now, in your own words.
I have his ear and just about everything else I want.
You have his ear and all of his other parts. What is the single thing you think that you lament most about the business in terms of having watched the entire arc and evolution of just even your own career?
I think there are a number of things, really. I lament for him the fact that it's a young person's world, that the kind of knowledge that directors have in most cases doesn't count for very much if you're older. I mean, you'd think in that particular business, the wiser you got, the better you'd get, the more able you'd be to bring something in on budget or bring it in on a low budget and so on. And it seems that it's very much a young people's world. Then there's the issue of roles for women, which are getting better. This film is a nice example. And Julia Roberts and people like that seem to be able to generate those kind of things, which so one's hopeful. But for a while there, it was definitely not possible. Thirdly, the lack of musicals. But fourth, it's in a pretty healthy state, I'd say. Everything comes full circle, just everything. That's the one thing I have noticed. You think something's out of favor, it's going to be right back in another 10 years. I've seen it happen 2 or 3 times.
Can I ask if you would ever revisit, if you'd ever play Mary Poppins again?
Gosh, A, would I be able to? B, would they ask me? And C, if they did, perhaps would be the answer, yeah. It'd have to be awfully good with a real fresh approach, because I think there's a tremendous danger when something is sort of an icon or it is classic, that you don't want to spoil that, you know. It's a tremendous gamble.
And before they take you away, I just have an agenda question. How do you celebrate 4th of July?
With the family, because I'm certainly as much, certainly I'm mid-Atlantic, if not fully American, and married to an American, and my family's been raised in America, so 4th of July is barbecuing in the garden and as many family members around as possible.
If we could wrap this up back on the movie again. One of the things that's come up several times today is the fact that this film is really a throwback to the movies of yesteryear, and really, you know, Sound of Music, Mary Poppins kind of goes into that.
Also the early Disney movies like Parent Trap and things like that, you know.
Right. In a marketplace that so many films aimed at young people are about, you know, kids trying to get laid, or, you know, it's toilet humor. This is really charming, and you don't see very much of that.
Well, isn't that great? I mean, I tell you, see, I'm right. Things are cyclical. They come around.
Is that something that attracted you, though? I mean, was that an issue?
No, I just think Garry Marshall attracted me. The role was great fun. And I must say, I did fall in love with Annie. She's so special. And I think she's going to be a huge star. There's no doubt about it.
I think
you don't find a young girl with that wisdom and that talent for being a comedian very often.
Yes, she's incredible.
Isn't she?
I think Goodbye Trolley People may become the new catchphrase.
I hope so. That's pure Garry Marshall, and bless his heart. Thank you. It is a funny line, isn't it? Oh, and there's so many others in there. What about, I don't know if you got it, but I say, when I'm in her car, I say, I haven't sat in the front seat of a car in the longest time. Just love it.
So earnest and sincere.
Well, yes, it's true. Being a royal, when would she ever sit in the front, you know? Gosh, you really did get everybody.
You don't do that, right? You sit in the front.
Yes, I actually take charge and drive. I love that.
And that line where she says, "Goodbye, trolley people"?
Yeah. And then I never slide. And she says, would you like to slide over? No, I never slide.
I never slide. Oh, perfect.
That's all Garry. And that's yours.
What
Okay.
was your husband's reaction when you saw the film?
He loved it. Yeah. We saw a very early print. You know, we haven't seen the final thing, but he loved it.
I saw SOB again not long ago.
Oh.
It's amazing how that film just totally stands up.
And speaks for the idiocy of this wonderful business, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I loved it. It's almost one of my favorite films. I mean, I have a lot, but that one. And the cast. I mean, William Holden and Preston and Weber and Shelley Winter. I mean, we were really a repertory team. People would come down on the set on days when they weren't working, which is really rare. And just to sit around and be part of the fun, you know.
It was the kind of movie where you could all share, I suspect, your own personal war story.
Everybody contributed something. Everybody contributed a moment in the movie, and most of it is absolutely true. You know, even the robbing of the body from the funeral parlor, you know. Yeah. They say that, God, who am I trying to remember, darling? Who is it? Who is the famous actor that was taken from the funeral parlor? Sure, Barrymore. Yeah. It was carted off by his friends.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. There's mad people.
At the time, all the hype of the movie was, Mary Poppins flashes her breast.
Yeah,
By
but
the
you know,
time that's gone away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See.
because Mary Tyler Moore flashed her breast since then, so that's.
Mary did?
What was the movie? In the bra.
Flirting with Disaster.
Oh,
Flirting with Disaster.
Well, I've gathered that. Who is it now that's just doing it? Not Angelina. That's right.
$500,000 they paid her to do it.
Is that all she does? I'm sure she does something else for $500,000, doesn't she?
$1 million for each one.
I think Letterman had the best line about Mary Tyler Moore. He goes, "She's turning the world on with more than her smile."
It's funny. Actually, I had about 10 years to think about it, and because it took 10 years to get SOB made. Every studio said, love it, love to do it, and then they all wouldn't touch it with a barge pole, you know? They were very scared it was about them. And so it took 10 years to get it done, and I had 10 years to think about, Actually, it was only going to be one breast originally, and then it didn't work, so it had to be two. But it was actually valid. If I hadn't done it, the whole theme of the movie wouldn't have worked, Yeah. So it's okay if it's in character, I think.
Stands up. It's one of my top 5 movies.
Thank you. I'm glad. I'll tell Blake.
DVD of that? Did Blake ever do a DVD?
It should be done. I don't think it has. I think there's one of. I don't even know if there's one of Victor Victoria.
Not Victor Victoria, Pink Panther.
Yeah, but they should do SOB. Victor Victoria is on DVD. The play.
The play is, yes. Okay. The play.
The musical, I guess. But I know I don't know if it's on DVD in terms of all the backstory. Is it?
Oh no, it's just the play.
Just the play.
I think it was taped for Japanese.
High fidelity television.
DVD for SOB, they'd be killing each other to get into the studio. And everybody to tell their stories.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't want us to. Yes, to prevent us from getting in the studio.
And he still has all the outtakes and all the stuff.
Oh, I tell you, if Blake, one of the things that made me fall in love with him, and actually I think it was the day that it sealed my fate with him, was he has an outtake collection that is superb. I mean, you know how funny he is anyway. And he wondered if I had a sense of humor, and the day he showed it to me, I literally slid under my seat with laughter, and he thought, okay, I think that may be the lady I'd like to get together with. What a cool story. I do slide, yeah. Good on you. Good on you. Yes, in that case I did. Right into his lap, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, would you believe 32 years?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. You've been so nice. I'm going to take this with me so I can fill it again. Bye. As I said in the last thing, bye, radio people. See you again. Thank you. Bye. Thanks a lot. Bye.
And we're back from the Julie Andrews interview for The Princess Diaries. I still, Matt, have not seen SOB, and I definitely need to see that.
It's funny. It's a Hollywood satire. And it's, it's a little bit outdated, but in a lot of ways it's not.
Okay, cool.
So the incredibly charming Julie Andrews got a couple of postscripts. She wrote about wanting to write her memoirs, and she did succeed in doing that. Her finished book, Home, A Memoir of My Early Years, was published 7 years later in 2008. And as a final postscript, they did make a sequel to this film. It was called The Princess Diaries 2 Royal Engagement. It came out in 2004, and it reunited director Garry Marshall with Anne Hathaway, Julie Andrews, Hector Elizondo, and Heather Matarazzo. And it added newcomer Chris Pine to the mix. That was his first movie. Garry Marshall definitely had an eye for finding fresh talent. At the time of his death, he was reportedly gearing up for The Princess Diaries 3, but obviously he's not going to make it.
Well, he's not going to make it, Matt, but,
yeah.
Hopefully, with this year's announcement from, actually not an announcement, but with Anne Hathaway talking to Andy Cohen on Watch What Happens Live, her discussion that The Princess Diaries 3, there is a script for it, and she wants to do it. Julie Andrews really wants to do it. So in a way, it not only, to your point, not only will it be a great reunion with Anne Hathaway and Julie Andrews and the characters from The Princess Diaries, but it'll also be a nice tribute to Garry Marshall as well. So I think that's something we're all looking forward to.
Maybe they can get his son to direct it.
That would be a great idea. You and your ideas.
Me and my ideas.
Calling Scott Marshall out there, please put your feelers out for The Princess Diaries 3, which has a script and is now out there, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be right around the corner.
Well, we shall see. That is the end of our Princess Diaries episode. Now comes the time when we reveal what's going to be on our next episode. Hopefully you guys will stick around and download the next one. It's going to be The Silence of the Lambs.
So Matt, anything else you want to say before we wrap up? And nice teaser with The Silence of the Lambs.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that nice compliment. I'm very proud of my teaser. I just wanted to mention our webpage, which is
That's called a slow burn, folks. Slow burn.
MattandGregPodcast.com.
Very good.
We also have a Facebook page, which is at
I wish Matt would go slower. Yeah, slower, Matt, please.
Hold on, wait, what's this next letter? W.
What comes after that?
Facebook.com/MattandGreg. We want to ask everyone to please subscribe.
Subscribe to us on iTunes, on Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast, any kind of podcatcher Google Play, Apple Podcasts. We're all across the board.
You can come over to my house. I'll be happy to play it for you.
And so subscribe to us any which way or form. And Matt's making a lot of great effort to build that Facebook community on Facebook, like you said, facebook.com/Matt and Greg. So please join our community with that. I'm looking forward to
spread the word, tell your friends,
and also get back to us and tell us your honest feedback regarding our coverage of these films. So before we go,
I mean, it's not like we don't know all of our shortcomings, but we love to hear it from strangers.
I wish I had a long coming one day, but that's never going to happen. Maybe in another life. Matt, before we go, do you want to say anything?
Elbow
it is. The Silence of the Lamb it will be. So without further ado, no more. I will not say that anymore. We are off.
Bye, everyone. Be good people.
Be good people. There you go. Bye.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled lives.